Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new season of the UK Sim Racing Securities Porsche Cup. Indeed, it is Season 8, and our drivers get ready to go racing today in what is expected to be a thrilling season opener. We welcome you all to a brand new season of the series that continues to combine the very best racers on iRacing with the ultimate in German engineering, the Flat 6 machine, indeed the Flat 6 engine Porsche 992 Cup car with no anti-lock braking system nor any traction control systems to speak of. It is a driver's car where it's all about nailing the car and being one with the machine from circuit to circuit and lap to lap. And as our drivers get ready to go racing today, well, goodness me, we are in for a thriller for our season opener. For its rounds 1 and 2 here in Brazil at the Autódromo José Carlos Pache. And as all of our drivers get set in the background right now, we welcome you all to this post-round broadcast. And the reason we say this is a post-round broadcast is the broadcast itself is live as we speak to you now. However, the racing itself occurred as of last week. In fact, this time last week on what was the good old day of Thursday, the 28th of September 2023, our drivers took the Brazilian circuit for the season opener. But given the fact that this week it is a mid-season break early on due to a clash with the official iRacing Petit Le Mans and also due to scheduling availability of the broadcast last week, we're making up amends and we're going back in time by a week to bring you all the racing as if it were live. So what that means is, as your host and commentator, I do not know what happens here in the commentary booth, whether it be in the final practice session, which is currently ongoing, alternatively in the qualifying session or in either of our two races. So therefore it'll be brought to you as if it was raw and absolutely live. Indeed, we're going to see how it all plays out over the course of our two races today. In the commentary booth, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain of Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And this broadcast is being brought to you live via the official UK Sim Racing Twitch channel. Indeed, if you go to twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing, you can be tuned in there right now. And we do say hello to you guys and girls in the Twitch chat, including there one is 84TD and also Simon Bamber and also Jock Muir. And as you guys get ready to go, well, I can see there 84TD already saying, ESL, no, this is your main event at your Thursday evening. Indeed it is, and what an event we have got ahead of ourselves. But to be fair, I think it's only appropriate before we come onto our schedule, we talk a little bit about our calendar for this season. For as we can see, as we go racing today, when it's the 28th of September, if we go back in time for rounds 1 and 2, and this will be the only broadcast this season which is brought to you post-round. All other broadcasts will be live before we kick off at the Brazilian circuit. And well, this circuit, of course, we'll talk a little bit more about in due course, but is one that is not without drama. Indeed, you only need to look back to Lewis Hamilton's title opening bank account championship season in terms of the 2008 season finale, and the legendary Is That Glock moment in order to know about drama at this circuit. But whether it be Formula 1 or Brazilian stock car racing, it is a circuit that is much loved for its ability to bring the drama to the foray of the action. But after rounds 1 and 2, in a week's time, on the 12th of October, we will be going racing in the United States of America the first of 3 times this season with an American doubleheader, and that will be at the Circuit of the Americas, or COTA as it's known in short, in round number 3 for our first endurance race round of the season. And as you can see, that we're 3 endurance race rounds, and then we have what is the best total there of 5 sprint and feature combination rounds put together. But after the Circuit of the Americas, our drivers will then be making their way from the state of Texas to the state of Michigan for downtown Detroit in the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle on the 19th of October. And if you've never seen racing in the old Belle Isle Detroit circuit, no longer around unfortunately, a not very popular circuit compared to the recently revamped City circuit, but I'd argue it's been one of the most popular circuits we've seen Porsche Cup racing at in this league over the course of its history. With the fact, I think this is now the 3rd time the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle circuit is making its way onto a calendar, and we will be in for an absolute thriller with rounds 4 and 5. And then round 6 and 7 that follow after on the 26th of October, we're making our way to Spain for the Motorland Aragon circuit, with all its twists and turns and its numerous technical corner sequences. It's definitely going to be a challenging one for our drivers, and we could see quite a few drivers fall off the circuit there in terms of getting it wrong, and it may all come down to consistency rather than outright pace. And then round number 8 before we go into our second mid-season break, and arguably the halfway point of the season in some respects, we're going to have our second endurance race round at the one and only Mount Panorama Raceway. But you all know and love it and refer to it as Bathurst in reference to the local township, and well, that is going to be a circuit where all our drivers will be needing to be absolutely pinpoint precise and on the ball from lap to lap if they want to come away on top. Then we'll have our second mid-season break week before returning for rounds 9 and 10 on the 16th of November, and that will be at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and our drivers there will be taking on the circuit, the long layout of the legendary Green Hell circuit, and what will be a very short sprint race and a significantly longer feature race by comparison, but then it's going to be about keeping it on track as much as possible. Now, our final sprint and feature race combination on rounds 11 and 12, we're making our way to Italy for the Imola circuit, or known in full as the Autodromo Enzo Idino Ferrari, and then it's all going to be about long straights, heavy braking zones and nifty chicanes, and who's going to come out on top there on the 23rd of November to set themselves up for success with round number 13, and that will be at Road Atlanta, return to the United States of America for the third and final time this season. And will the Road Atlanta full course be playing host to our drivers to bring the curtain on down, and on the 30th of November, who will be the one to dominate and who will be the one to come away with the championship crown? We'll have to wait and see. As we get ready to go racing at Delay, let's take you through the circuit, and of course it is the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, as it's known in full, the Grand Prix layout to which our drivers will be racing on, not the MotoGP layout, and as our drivers take to the circuit, which is more commonly referred to as Interlagos, and that is in reference to the fact it is located in the position of Interlagos, which is a region between two artificial lakes in the Brazilian city of Sao Paulo, and indeed one of the major cities of Brazil. Our drivers will find themselves taking on a circuit which indeed is known not just on a national stage, but also on the international stage as perhaps one of the original tongue twisters of the circuit when it comes to winding corners, extended straights, and also multiple elevation changes. For as we can see from the circuit map provided us by iRacing.com, thanks to them for their wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it, this is a circuit which meshes together a wide variety of 15 corners, with a good number of them being kinks, a number of them being sweepers, and also quite a few hairpins, and it's all over the local hilly terrain, albeit a two-dimensional image doesn't quite convey that as what three-dimensional images will do in due course. As our drivers make their way across the start-finish line and down towards turn number 1, they'll brake into the left-hander, which you'll see our drivers plummet downhill through the centre S, and as they come into turn number 2, the deceptively tight right-hander at turn number 2, where it's all about trying to hit an early apex and get back on the throttle as soon as possible, before carrying the speed through Curva do Sol at turn number 3, and going flat out onto the Retro Aposta straight at turn, on the run down towards turn number 4, I should say. Now making the way down towards the braking zone for turn number 4, then we're going to see the circuit take a bit of a different turn, in the fact that initially it's been a quite significant downhill run, and that downhill trend continues through turn 4, the rather slow turn 4 left-hander being a downhill descent that's off camber. Indeed, we can expect many a driver to potentially go wide there. But as they come out of the corner, they'll make their way up towards the Esquina do Largo at turn number 5, and as they head up through the left-hander and up the hill towards Ferradura at turn number 6, this is where the circuit now starts to go for a combination of uphill and downhill runs. It's uphill for the double right-hander of Ferradura and Curva do Laranja, and as they make their way through turn number 7 and in towards turn number 8, the first of multiple hairpins, they'll find themselves battling under braking there before going in towards Pinheiro at turn number 9. Then off camber left-hander, where it's all about mounting the apex curve and staying with it. Our drivers there can fall off the curb, alternatively pick up quite a bit of oversteer on power on exit, and if they get it right, they'll make their way out towards turn number 10 hairpin, known as the Bico de Pato, and as they make their way into the braking zone there, it gets very tight at the apex, and that's where we could expect to see 2 or even 3 wide under the closest of racing. But make it out there unscathed, they'll then need to quickly switch the car into the right-hand side to open up Magulo corner at turn number 11, arguably the hardest corner on the circuit, given the fact that it is a downhill left-hander, where our drivers will be needing to try and nail the apex as best as they possibly can. And again, off camber, much like turn number 4, but building up speed as they hit the apex there, and that'll be on the minds of our drivers. And then they'll head up to Junsao at turn number 12, the left-hander flying on through before coming on through the kinks of 13, 14 and 15 to complete the lap and do it all over again in a flat-out charge towards the start-finish line. Well, that's not appetizing, I don't know what is. But as we get ready to go racing today, let's take you through those rules. And the rules haven't really changed for this season in terms of our sprint and feature race combination rounds. We'll tell you about some of the changes very shortly, although those of you in the chat or just have looked at the chat, you may have noticed we've already revealed what the changes are for this season. In terms of qualifying today, a lone qualifying format shall be used, where all of our drivers take to an isolated instance of the circuit where they have it to themselves, and they'll have 8 minutes to set their best possible time. There's no overtime in qualifying, so when the clock strikes 8 minutes, that's your lot, and we go immediately to the grid for the first race of the day. Now, speaking of the races, they shall commence via a standing start, as is the tradition of the UK Sim Racing at Porsche Cup. And with regards to the heat race grid, which will be our first race of the day, of course, it will be set based on results of qualifying, that's a given. But what about the feature race grid? Well, that will be set as a partial reverse grid based on results of the sprint race or the heat race, however you want to define it. And that is with regards to the fact we'll see the top 8 positions inverted. So the winner of what is our heat or a sprint race, they'll be starting at P8, and conversely, the 8th place finisher will be starting on pole for the purposes of the feature, and then P9 and downwards, well, that's exactly where they're going to be starting. starting where they ended up in the first race of the day. Now, there are no mandatory pit stop requirements in the heat or the feature race, and one fast repair is available in each race, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 15 or more instant points in either of the races. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. I know what you're all here for. You're here for the racing. Once we make our way back to the pictures here, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring out that schedule for today. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time at +1, UTC +1. And as we can see, in just under 4 minutes time, we'll be going into our first qualifying session of the season. 8 minutes with all the drivers out on their isolated instances of the circuit and lone qualifying, and we'll get to see who is the one lap speed demon. And then we make our way into our first race, the 12-minute heat race. That returns, as does the 30-minute feature race, and the heat race will be at 8:10, 12 minutes, indeed a very short race, and that'll be a limited number of laps for our drivers, and they'll all let's try and do the very best they can out on circuit. And then we do make our way into that feature race, 30 minutes in duration, 2.5 times the duration of the first round of the season, and round number 2 will just be as much about looking after the car and the tyres as it will be about being the fastest driver on circuit over a single lap, for the simple reason the tyres in these Porsche Cup cars, they normally only last about 20 minutes, and therefore they become very cagey as time rages on. But we rage on there about the schedule, and as all drivers get set today, and we do look at our drivers making the way on around currently, and we do apologise for the time and on the left hand side there being a little bit erroneous in terms of the times that's set by drivers. It does look as though we're experiencing a slight glitch with regards to the iRacing that replay file we're using. That is one of the limitations we do have with regards to post-round broadcast. We should point out here is if something is missed when we are covering the racing or qualifying, unfortunately we cannot go back and get a replay of it because we're already looking at a replay technically, so therefore we're going to do everything we can to try and catch every moment of the racing. But if we do miss anything, we do apologise up front for you guys and girls tuning on in. But we see Tim Darracott here from Effect Simulations making his way on around, and indeed we have quite a few familiar faces on the grid today. We also have some new faces, and Tim Darracott returning, I do believe, after a bit of a hiatus from the Porsche Cup, and Effect Simulations being represented. Indeed, we've got to see Paul Busby on the grid last season, and now Darracott takes up the reins here. But you may have noticed on the time tower as well, we do have our drivers with the yellow gold sashes next to them. They're your gold class drivers. We've also seen that some of them have with these silver sashes against their name, or grey ones, depending on your preference of colour nomenclature. And the likes of Gus Franken, who we welcome to the grid for RPM, the Dutchman. And well, they are the silver class. But what are these guys with the brown sashes against their name? Well, they are part of the bronze class, all new for this season. And we do see the arrival of the bronze class here on the grid, as we see all spares by Connex's Ben Kirby making his way through turn 1 into turn number 2. They're taking plenty of apex curb with it. And well, as he makes his way around here, indeed, we've heard your feedback, and that is to split the classes into 3 rather than 2. And with 3 drivers classes on the grid, that means there's 3 drivers championship up for grabs this season, as well as the team's championship. But the big prizes are in the drivers championship, and of course there is the accolade of being the best team on the grid as well. As we welcome Ben Kirby to the grid, we also do welcome here what is Forsten at Sifford, as the Ring Physiot Sim Racing driver from Germany makes his debut today in the number 76 car. Wonderful livery on that car, I must say, as he makes his way out of turn number 12 and on the rise now through the last couple of corners to complete the lap and do it all over again, albeit he's not going to be able to get another lap in right now, given the fact that he is coming to time in this practice session. Indeed, all the drivers are, but he'll be definitely feeling eager to go into qualifying now, given the fact that time is wearing out here in terms of this session, and well, as we get ready to go racing. The other things that have changed for this season, albeit perhaps a little bit less visible, is in the fact that in what is our endurance race rounds, and you'll see that in a week's time in round number 3, the qualifying session has been reduced from 30 minutes to 20 minutes, and that's to add a little bit more of danger to the qualifying session, because when you have 30 minutes at any given circuit, unless it's the Nürburgring Nordschleife, you've got plenty of time to nail your lap. But with 20 minutes, you've got a good amount of time, but you haven't quite got that huge safety net of time available, and that's something that will just keep our drivers a little bit more on edge in the endurance race rounds. And on top of that as well, we also have bonus points this season for the fastest lap in qualifying each of the classes, and also for the fastest lap in each class in each race there, so some extra points up for grabs. And we've also seen an overhaul of the point system for our drivers this season in terms of how much they take for a win through to 10th place, and that should keep the battling even closer with regards to this season. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough waddling on about things. It's time to go back to the classic format, which is who is the fastest driver over a single lap to take pole position. It's time for our first qualifying session of the season, and as all of our drivers get ready to make their way out into the circuit, well, we will only be able to see the perspective of Tim Darracott, given the lone qualifying session. The fact the replay file was provided by Mr. Darracott himself, but still, whilst we have 8 minutes enjoying that's in the number 18 that make its way out on the circuit, it gives us an opportunity to ride on board with him for a lap a little bit later on, and also tell you a little bit about the Interlagos circuit and what it takes to deliver the ultimate lap around here. As he makes his way up to speed out of the pit lane. We do say hello there to a few more of you, including what is N8F66 or NAF66, and we do appreciate you subscribing to the channel, and thank you for subscribing once again. You've been a 16-month subscriber now. We do appreciate that. We also say good morning there to K Lazarus 01, and well, that is none other than the New Zealander of Corey Lazarus, who you will see on this grid. He returns once again, and it wouldn't quite be a season of UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup without Blackout Motorsports, the team on the grid. And indeed, when you have legends such as Corey Lazarus and also Samuel K. Sprout, albeit I can't quite see him on the entry list today, when you do have the New Zealanders making their way onto the grid here, well, it is the best part of what would normally be, if my memory serves me correctly, and Corey will correct me if I'm wrong here, 4:30 in the morning they have to get up local time in order to go racing before they then go to work. They're absolute madmen, but we love them for it, and we've seen some fantastic racing over the last few seasons from the likes of Corey Lazarus and Samuel Sprout. And the one that always comes to mind for me when I think of Lazarus in particular is with regards to his battles at Catalonia in what was season 6, if my memory serves me correctly, where he held on to take the win in class, in the gold class, in the feature race after delivering what was an absolutely standout performance. But after seeing the praises of one gold driver and coming to our gold driver who's on screen right now, this is Tim Darracott as he makes his way onto his first flying lap. And as he comes on down, we also say hello there to Medmo in the Twitch chat, Matt Edmondson. And well, if you did enjoy the intro to this season, indeed we're going to be playing that intro at the start of every broadcast, we'll do say thank you to Matt Edmondson or Medmo in the chat, because he is the man who put it all together. And I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, how does he manage to up each and every intro he does? I do not know, but he does a fantastic job. But coming back to Interlagos then, or the Autódromo Jose Carlos Pache. This circuit, quite similar to how it opened up in a way over the course of its extensive history. It is a circuit that has not seen too much change when it comes to a layout format, and what that means is it is a circuit that is all about serpentining corners. So therefore, in terms of setting up the car to go well here at the circuit, given the fact this is an open setup series and tries to bring the setups they're choosing to each and every session of the season, you need to go for a setup here which is balanced. You do have some extended straights, such as the run out of Altogen South turn number 12, all the way up towards the start finish line and turn number 1. You also have the run out of turn 3 at the Curva de Sol on towards the Retroposta straight. However, if you invest too much in straight line speed, then you'll lose out in the middle section of the lap, as we see Darracott making his way through the turn 10 hairpin there and down on through turn number 11 at Magulo. The fact here is as well, you need quite a bit of rear wing in order to give you rear stability and enable you to have the rotation through the corners. So therefore, it's about compromises here, and the best setup is going to be one that runs a good amount of rear wing, but also at the same time not too much rear wing in order to not cost you too much speed on the straights. But that's where we're going to see today where our drivers have decided to invest in particular aspects of their car setup, in the fact that some drivers are very strong in the straights, expect them to perhaps be a bit weaker in the corners compared to their rivals and such forth. But as he makes his way down towards turn number 1 and in towards the left-hander, well, right now the number 18 driver here now going on to another lap of 36.273 being the first lap that he's put on the board, and will we now jump aboard here with Tim Darracott for the remainder of his second flying lap. As he makes his way out of the Curva del Sol and onto the Retroposta straight here, keeping the car over to the right-hand side and going on to the brakes, braking at the 100-meter board there and coming down the gearbox to third gear. And as he makes his way on through, now rolling the car out through turn number 5. Been smooth thus far, but now this is where all the complexity starts to come as he makes his way up in towards turn number 6. Keep the car to left, brake about 80 meters from corner apex, and go tight to the first apex and stay tight through turn number 7 here as he now lets the car glide out to the left hand side, using the natural camber of the road to guide the car as he comes in towards the turn 8 hairpin. Now downhill into turn number 9, and you'll notice here it goes a little bit deep initially and immediately snatches the car into the apex curve before powering out from second gear up into third. Now braking into turn number 10, braking out 75 meters from corner apex, having to fight there with the car gliding under brake and a little bit of oversteer on the braking as the car lifted up on the rear, given the depression in the rope. He comes down for 11 and in towards turn 12, fourth gear, and onto the brakes nice and early. Use the runoff strip on his right hand side there to open up the corner. Now onto power in third gear, staying in the high gear in order to give himself the ability to return to full throttle sooner. That's the idea, because you haven't got as many revs going for the engine, and therefore the rear tyres are not spinning as aggressively as he now goes flat out towards the start finish line. Well, he's going to be 5 minutes into the session. He'll get one more full lap in as a minimum here with Darracott as he makes way to the time line, and that is a 35.727. It's a nice lap there from Darracott, and well, he decides to park up, and that may just be, well, he'll go immediately out once again. He's going to try and get one more lap in. He has got 3 minutes on the clock right now. He's going to have to go very quickly indeed if he wants to squeeze in that final lap. I don't think he's going to be able to get that lap in, but going back out there, still the Effect Simulations driver, and well, to be fair, when he's got the time available, he might as well see if he can find a little bit more in terms of what is is his time as he makes his way down towards turn number 4. And we do say hello there to Divide Roll, and we're asking as the race started yet. Not yet. We are approximately 4 minutes away from green flag and lights out for the first time this season for round number 1. And as our driver here of Wiz Darracott makes his way up the hill through turn number 6 into 7. This Interlagos circuit is quite a favourite amongst drivers for the fact it has quite a few varieties of corners and whatnot, as we see Darracott coming to an end there of his qualifying session instead of making his way back to the pit lane. And I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, that may be qualifying done and dusted for our British driver there, as indeed he does now leave the pit lane. And well, we've got 2 minutes still left on the clock, but what we're going to do here, thanks to the power of what is time skipping, we're going to end this qualifying session with 2 minutes to go, and we're going to jump forward very shortly to what will be, well, in fact, we're not going to jump forward here as he doesn't make his way back into the car, so we get to see a little bit more of Tim Darracott here. And for 2 minutes, I think we can oblige him, given the fact he's made his way back out into the circuit. We're going to skip forward to the grid, but still, we have the time. As he makes his way on through here, we do talk a little bit now about the fact we have plenty of new drivers on the grid this season. As I think Darracott doing a little bit of practice here in terms of his standing start launch, and that's going to be something that's going to be absolutely pivotal for our drivers in terms of launching off the line. And well, I can tell you, it's not uncommon towards the end of a qualifying session, or indeed towards the end of a practice session, to have multiple drivers find a flat piece of tarmac on the circuit, normally a pit lane exit or whatnot, and practicing their launches, trying to make sure they get the right amount of power down, but at the same time don't pick up any errant wheel spin, which can cause them to bog down in the initial gear shifts. And indeed, the run towards turn number 1, it's only the best part of 400 meters from the front row of the grid, but the thing is, those 400 meters, they go incredibly quickly when these cars accelerate up to 100 miles an hour, faster than you and I can probably get to 30 in our standard road cars. But as he makes his way up towards what is turn number 6 and 7 there, we've got plenty of new names on the grid, and like we say, the likes of Ben Kirby in the bronze class, Charlie Max in the bronze class as well, and Jamie McEwen. Me on the silver class, we've got newcomers. We introduced one of them earlier, Thorsten Sivert. We also do have Gus Franken, also Navarro de Boba, who is joining the grid this season alongside his father, who is return of Jeremy de Boba. And with Jeremy de Boba being the runners, one of the runners up in the silver class this season, where it'll be father and son combination on the grid, which will be fantastic to see. We also do have what is, I do believe, Mark Cadmore in the bronze class making his debut this season, plus Stephen Ray. And in the gold class, we have the return of Nicholas Nold, who made a brief debut in season 7, albeit a difficult time at Silverstone. But that's enough talking about new drivers right now, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time for our first race of the season. As they all make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up. It is Nicholas Nold who takes pole position for the season opener for Impulse Racing, joined on the front row by teammate Philip Hammer. Well, Hammer will be looking to try and come back strong for what is the return, given the fact he lost the championship last season to Thomas Cope, who unfortunately could not make this round. But as our drivers all make their way onto the grid, Corey Lazarus P3 there for Blackout Motorsport OPR, and he'll be joined on the second row of the grid by Nathan Foster for Empire Motorsport. We then do have behind him Tim Darracott for Effect Simulations, who starts P5 ahead of Simon B. Bamber for UK Sim Racing Admin Team. Your silver pole sitter there, Lucas Romano for RPM starts P7 ahead of Emerald Koopmans for Apex Missers, and then the top 10 being rounded out by Marcel Fritz for WS Racing Esports and HFT Racing's Cole Filvus. We then have on row number 6 Oystein Hereford for Hydro Race Geodesic Racing, joined by Thorsten Seifert for Ring Physiat Sim Racing. And then we have on row number 7 at Glenn Humberstone for 88 Tech Racing, joined by Chris Edders for UK Sim Racing Admin Team. And then DDD Vlaming starts P15 for DBR, joined by teammate Navarro de Boba. And then we have on what is row number 9 Roxanne Marshall for 24-hour Punty People, joined by your bronze pole sitter of Ben Kirby for All Spares by Connexus. Congratulations to him on his debut for taking the first ever bronze pole position. Jeremy DeBow for DBR and Gus Franken for RPM, line up P19, P20. And it's Craig Shield P21 for 88 Tech, joined by Sean Cranny Swash for 24-hour Punty People. The bronze pair Charlie Max of Friends Racing by Connexus, and Clicks Racing's Sean Dobie on what is the 12th row. And then behind them on row number 13, it is Casper Tunstead for Peak Sim Racing, joined by Jamie McEwen for Iron Brew by Connexus Motors. Joe Pinder starts P27 for Elmis by Connexus, joined up by the Pro Tip Mark Cadmore. And then on the final row of the grid, it's Stephen Ray for 24-hour Punty People starting P29 out of 29. And well, ladies and gentlemen, the grid is set. It is time for the light. And who's going to be leading come the run out of turn number 1? It's time to find out. And it's lights out, away we go for an all-new season of Porsche Cup as Nicholas Knoll gets a good start. Hammer on the inside though as they make the way towards the first braking zone. Hammer having to go defensive as Lazarus getting a very good launch off the line. And as they all make the way in under braking it, everyone will be a little bit tentative for the first time as they all come down through the hill. I mean, it's too wide through Interlagos' opening corners. A classic combination, but still everyone will be eager to get it right this first time around. Nobody wants to drop it off circuit, and everyone makes it on through safely as Navarro de Boba here already on a battle versus Glenn Humberstone, who's lost 2 places offline. DDD Blaming has gained some positions. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, select Nathan Foster versus Simon Bamber. Bamber trying to go around the outside in the UK Sim Racing. A light blue machine goes wide. Nathan Foster holds the line for Empire Motorsport as they make the way through turn number 5 and up the hill they rise. Meanwhile, behind Lucas Romano holding on to P8, loses 1 place overall. Marcel Fritsch tucked in behind him, and Noistin Hereford here gaining some early ground. The Judic Racing machine as he makes his way up towards turn number 8. But as they come on through, Chris Eddersford here, well, the champion in the silver class last season, well, champion runner-up, I should say. Pronounced as champion in the fact that we got it slightly wrong at the end of the season. That went to Adam Greaveston, but the runner-up, the UK Sim Racing admin team driver in the Triple Eight there, battling hard with Kyle Felthus, with DDD Blaming right behind him. Contact there from Glenn Humberstone versus the rear of Blaming as they made the way into the corner, and that's the concertina effect all coming together as they make the way on down through turn at number 11. And meanwhile, Charlie Max side by side with Gus Franken, albeit Franken on the very tight line. You can see the oversteer creeping in there, where Franken trying to carry a bit too much speed what the car can handle. What Max going a little bit deep on the outside line. That's going to be Franken back up the inside here as the bronze driver fights hard with the silver as they make the way towards the end of the first lap of racing. But as they make the way onwards towards lap number 2, it's Nicholas Knoll who still leads at a Philip Hammer P2, Corey Lazarus P3, Nathan Foster P4, Simon Bamber P5, ahead of Tim Darrellcott P6, Emil Coutens P7, silver leader Lucas Romano P8, ahead of the 2 golds of Marcel Fritsch and Oistein Hereford. Then we do have Forston Sever P11, best to rest, and then your bronze leader of Ben Kirby, who's had it go very, very wrong. A lot of smoke up there under braking, it would seem, from a couple of drives coming into the opening corner, but Ben Kirby absolutely fine. Oh, goodness me, and that is, I believe, Roxanne Marshall and Glenn Humberstone. Something's gone very wrong for the pair of them, but they're both pointing in the wrong direction. Whether it's been an altercation between them or they've had separate incidents, we're not quite sure, but the aftermath is they've both dropped down the order a significant way so, and right now they'll be looking to recover. But meanwhile, their loss is other drivers' gain. And speaking of gains right now, Mark Cadmore making up another place there versus Jamie McEwen as they made the way through turn number 4, and as they charged away through the left-hander up the hill towards what is turns at 6 and 7. Joe Pinder versus Sean Doby. Pinder around the outside trying to hold the position, but keep 9/8 put themselves on a long circumference here, and that's going to open the door up towards Navarro de Boba, or in fact Jeremy de Boba behind, as the father of the family makes his way out the inside there. Gilles immediately behind Pinder trying to get it back into the battle, and well, meanwhile Charlie Max and Gus Franken, they're not in the same class in terms of the drivers. I tell you right now, they're both in an equal class in terms of battling as they make their way into the braking zone. And meanwhile, Navarro de Boba being passed there by Sean Cranley Swash on the offset of the picture as they made the way through turn number 10. That's Sean Cranley Swash up into P6 in the silver class. Meanwhile, Navarro de Boba down towards P7. And as they all make their way in towards turn number 12 once again here, right now everybody getting very feisty and really testing the limits of how much they can push early on in this race. As meanwhile we look back up into the gold class, and this is Marcel Fritsch who's being passed by Oistein Hereford as Hereford up the inside in towards turn, and when he goes in the long drag race into the braking zone, and as they make the way through, well, that is already 2 laps complete, 3 minutes taken down. We've still got another 9 minutes plus the final lap of this race to go, and Marcel Fritsch right now languishing, whereas Hereford is now starting to push on. But to be fair, the one thing we know about Marcel Fritsch is a very consistent driver. He may not be the fastest in his class, but the Austrian driver for WS Racing Esports builds up gradually. And you normally do see over the longer races, that's where he thrives. But as they make the way through turn at number 4, meanwhile looking back here to Jeremy de Boba and Sean Doby. Well, that's going to be de Boba on the inside of the Clicks Racing machine. The Scotsman Doby here being passed. I don't think he's going to mind this too much, given the fact that de Boba and Franken are silver drivers in front of him now, and he'll hope that they'll just break off into the distance, and therefore Doby can focus on holding on to that bronze podium P3, given the fact he's got Joe Pinder 7 tenths behind him as they make the way up the rise. But as they come in to the right-hander and all the way through, we'll coming on towards turn at number 8 here. It does look as though Franken and de Boba are getting closer and closer with every apex turn, and right now Jeremy de Boba may be thinking about that move in short order. But from them, Joe Pinder also staying close as we ride on board with the enemies via Connexus driver, as we see the number 22 here really starting to push that podium. Gets very close on the brake, it goes all in, and I think he missed his braking point, but in return, Doby not seeing it coming, and Pinder up the inside. Well, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, and that was a first-class stamp that was attached to that send. But the Sim Racing lit the stamp and sent it, and I don't think Dobie knows quite what happened there. But Joe Pinder, as brave as they come, getting it done. I don't think it's going to work every time, and now Dobie immediately trying to come back as they make the way up through turn number 13 and 14, and almost towards the end of the lap. But they make the way through. This is the closest class battle right now, and we stay with it as they charge their way up towards turn number 1. It's going to be Pinder on the right of the picture, Dobie on the left, and Pinder here covering off the inside of the road. Dobie switches back to the inside, trying to go for the dummy from the outside to inside. He's going to commit to this, but Pinder says, well, just carry the speed around the outside, car off the road. That's Franken almost falling off the circuit, albeit he keeps 2 wheels on. That gives him the grip, and as they make the way out to turn number 1 and 2, well, right now Pinder still ahead of Dobie, but Dobie is not giving up whatsoever as they make the way down towards the next braking zone. But meanwhile, Gus Franken offering a huge tow there to Pinder. Pinder wants to get the silver driver between the two of them as they make their way into the braking zone. You can understand why, because if he can, then he will have a bit of a buffer. He goes on a move here. This is going to be for what is P20 overall, and it's going to be a good move there, or is it? As now Franken tries to come back, switches the middle road, and Dobie in contact there with Franken, and in the end, 3 does not go into 1 at the best of times, let alone 2. And well, there Franken and Dobie having a bit of contact, and Dobie coming the worst off as a result of it. And I think Franken just not realising that Dobie still had the overlap with him. But as they make the way on through, that brings that battle for third place in the bronze class to an abrupt halt as we show you the standings on the left hand side for the individual classes. Remember that drivers score points based on their class finishing position, not their overall finishing position. And Sean Cranny Swash here battling with DDD Blaming for P5 in the silver class as they make the way in towards turn number 12, and Blaming holding that inside line, but Cranny Swash going for the cutback here. The 24-hour Bunty People drive from Canada in the tow as they make the way onto the long stretch, and as they do, well, right now we'll start to get an idea of who's running a bit more rear wing compared to the other. If we do see the Blaming really start to open up a gap on the straight, or at least keep it stationary, then that might be an idea. He's running a bit less rear wing compared to Cranny Swash by comparison, but it looks though here, Swash trying to go around the outside onto the brakes, and well, he's now going to try and go over the inside into turn number 2. He's going to be there, and in the end, will delete Blaming, can't turn in, and it's a nice move. It's a good counter attack from Cranny Swash to take P5 in the silver class, P16 overall as he makes his way now on to the Retro Poster. But as he does, meanwhile, Navarro Dabova now trying to pick a place of a Blaming as they make the way down, but it's going to be Cranny Swash who's under pressure from both of the drivers here as they enter the braking zone. Dabova having to watch, wait and listen, whereas it's going to be Blaming who's very eager to try and make his way back on pass as we move into the second half of this race, but no joy for either of them there, and they've got to be careful here because these two teammates of Fetty are running at the same livery machines, the DBR machines, but at the same time they'll both want to get some key points for themselves. They've got Jeremy Dabova who's coming up behind them, only what is a second off if that, so therefore right now we do see the whole DBR team family starting to get closer and closer together, and Cranny Swash starting to become a little bit of a cork in the proverbial bottle. But as they make the way up towards what is a turn at turn number 10, and through the right hander they go. And we're hearing that Sean Dobie, with the damage he picked up on the car, has had a further incident unfortunately, and will now down P6 in the bronze class. It's a difficult day for him, in fact losing out to Stephen Ray only moments ago off camera. But meanwhile from them we do look up to the leaders here, and it's still Impulse Racing who hold on to the lead. Nicholas Nold ahead of Philip Hammer at the moment, and well, it's a 1-2 for the team. The 2 German drivers here doing a stellar job thus far. Meanwhile going up the inside there for P7 in the gold class. We catch the conclusion of it. It was there Oyston Hereford making another place, and Will Koopmans now falls to P8, and well, this is the much coveted position as Koopmans goes very wide. He'll pick up an off track for that. I don't think he'll pick up a slowdown per se. We have to be wary of those off tracks. He continues to accrue them. Indeed, there is a bit of a way of working those off tracks in terms of making them tactical off tracks, where if you've got a few to spare towards the end of the race, you may let yourself go a little bit wide to pick up 1 or 2 miles an hour extra speed, knowing you only pick up a 1 off track out of the ones you're allotted, but you have to be smart with it. And as they make the way through turns 6 and 7, well, right now Koopmans here, the Dutchman, holding on to that position that will put him in pole for the second race of the day, and therefore he'll have it on his mind that he won't want to let the silver leader Lucas Romano on through. But I think Romano may have other ideas, because if he can put himself on pole for the next race of the day, then Romano will be very confident. I think they can make it back-to-back wins in the silver class on this opening pair of rounds of the season. But as they make the way for return at number 10, and down for the right and into left they go. Meanwhile, we do look to Marcel Fritsch and Carl Fervers behind. Fervers a little bit further back, 9 tenths off now, and well, I think Marcel Fritsch in this P9 position, starting to feel a bit more comfortable with the kite, starting to come to him a bit more, albeit Romano just in front as they make the way on around. We do say hello there to Joe Pinder, which there's a great drive indeed. Some fantastic racing thus far from our drivers, and we're only 9 minutes into what is going to be over 180 minutes of racing in this season. And well, if this is a glimpse of what's to come, I can tell you one thing, we're in for a treat. And as they make the way up towards turn at number 1, well, now another 2 laps to go on to lap number 7 here of what will be 8 in total, given where our leader currently is on the circuit, making the way down the Retro Poster. And meanwhile, looking further back, this is Casper Tunstead making his debut as well for Peak Sim Racing up the inside versus, well, in fact, not on the inside, they're on the inside defending, we should say. It's Chris Eddersford. And as we correct ourselves there, Eddersford with a little bit of power oversteer as he came out of turn number 1. But Eddersford now finding his feet, and Casper Tunstead, one of the biggest gainers of them all, gaining what was a grand total of 7th place in class since the start. I think he's avoided all the drama and just simply gained the ground as he makes his way up into turn number 4 as they make the way onto the brakes. Meanwhile, Jeremy DeBova and Didi lane swapping places here for P5 in the silver class. Navarro DeBova has fallen a bit further back. I believe he's had an off track at turns 1 and 2, which would explain where he's disappeared to. And we're right now in the next target for Jeremy DeBova. Indeed, the DBR crew will be Ben Kirby just in front, the bronze leader. And I don't think Kirby is going to really fight this too much, or will he, given the fact if he loses the places to both of the silver class drivers here. He'll then have Charlie Max, who's right behind this pair, and well, Max in the rear of the picture. Here he is in the wonderful red machine for Friends Racing by Connexus. And the point being here that then Max will be in a side-by-side battle off the line in the battle for the lead of the bronze class in the second race of the day. He is P2 bronze, we should keep in mind as they make the way on through. But looking at back to the overall standings here on the left-hand side of the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Well, meanwhile, at the back of the field is Sean Dobie right now. He is trying to recover in this race. He's getting a bit closer to Mark Cadmore. In fact, we can look to Mark Cadmore here in the Rexy machine. Indeed, that livery on strong. And well, it is a wonderful livery there. The story behind it, in short, being it was one of the Porsche 911 RSR teams in the 24 Hour Le Mans. One of the children of the drivers decided to, because they love dinosaurs, they decided to take dinosaurs and put them on the car. But as they make the way on through turn number 10, they're defending versus Sean Dobie, tries to go around the outside. But meanwhile, Ben Kirby finds himself on the outside here as Jeremy DeBoer does go in for the move. That's for P15, and it's an important move as they make the way down here, given the fact that Ben Kirby will now find himself falling a bit closer. But meanwhile, in fact, no, he won't, as we can see Navarro DeBoer making the move around the outside to inside of 2-3 versus Charlie Max. And therefore, the Briton right now gains a place in terms of the closest to Kirby, but loses one in return. He doesn't gain anything in terms of net position on that grid for the next race. But as they make the way down, we're hearing that Craig Shield's been involved in a bit of a shunt. In fact, he's got off the road there at turns 1 and 2, so he's going to drop down to P26. A difficult moment for Craig Shield as he does return. But looking at from towards the back of the field, up towards the very front of the field as they make the way now to the final major corner on this final lap in the first race of the day. It's Nicholas Nold here, the 917 driver, coming through turn number 12. He's ahead of Philip Hammer, and right now it's a 1-2 on the card to Impulse Racing. And well, this is how they started on the grid, and they've stayed like this for the entirety of the race. And as they make the way on through the final couple of corners here, it's going to be a 1-2 to start off the season for Impulse Racing. Nicholas Nold takes his first win in his UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup career ahead of Philip Hammer P2, Corey Lazarus P3, Nathan Foster P4 ahead of Simon B. Bamber P5. It'll then be Tim Darracott P6 ahead of Hoystein Hereford P7. Emil Koopmans holds on to P8 to take reverse grid pole for round 2. Lucas Mano, your silver class winner, takes P9 there for RPM. Marcel Fritsch and Carl Felvers behind P10, P11. Forsten Sevier will take the runner-up spot in the silver class on his debut for Ring Physio Sim Racing. Well done to him, ahead of Chris Eddersford. Casper Tunstead behind P4 silver. Then we Jeremy DeBoer at P15 ahead of Didi DeVillamy, and on his debut, the first ever bronze win will go to All Spares by Connexus Ben Kirby from the United Kingdom. Well done to the number 19 driver. He held off Navarro DeBoer and Charlie Max, with Max being run up in bronze. Then we Gus Franken and Roxanne Marshall. Joe Pinder takes third place in the bronze class, P22 overall, ahead of Glenn Humberstone and Sean Cranny Swash, with Jamie McEwen at P4 in the bronze class, P25 ahead of Craig Shield, who gradually makes his way to the line. And there is Craig Shield in the wounded car, and then the last 3 finishers will all be together in the shot. It's Stephen Ray ahead of Mark Cadmore, with Sean Dobie last but not least P29. But that was our first race of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And whilst we do have a 2-minute breather, let's take you through those race results, subject to any Stewards inquiries once again. And here they are. We'll have to do it quick fire, however. As we can see, start off with the overall results. The Nicholas Nold there taking the win for Impulse Racing by 3 attempts over Philip Hammer, with Corey Lazarus round off the golden overall podium for Blackout Motorsport OPR. Then it was Nathan Foster P4 for Empire Motorsport ahead of Simon B. Bamber for UK Sim Racing Admin Team, and Tim Darracott for Effect Simulations losing the place off the line and not able to gain it back in the end for the Effect Simulations number 18. Wishing Ever P7 there, making good ground given the fact he qualified a little bit further on down the order, ahead of Emil Koopmans, who, whilst he missed out versus the Hydra race geodesic racing driver, the Apex Misters driver will take that reverse grid pole with that P8 finish. Then Lucas Mano P9, your silver class winner for RPM, was half a second clear of Marcel Fritsch for WS Racing Esports, and then best the rest P11 at Carl Felvers there for HFT Racing. We then had a sizable 9-second gap to what was your runner-up in the silver class P12 of Forsten Svet for Ring Fiziat Sim Racing. He was 3/10 clear of Chris Eddersford, who finished off the silver podium of what was Romano Svet and also Eddersford, and the UK Sim Racing admin team trial being followed up by Casper Turnstedt and Jeremy DeBova. Didi Delaney P16 ahead of your bronze class winner P17 overall Ben Kirby for All Spares by Connexus, and as we come to the end of the top 20, Navarro DeBova there separates the bronze winner from the bronze runner-up of Charlie Max for Friends Racing by Connexus, and there was a further 3 seconds to Gus Franken in P20. Roxanne Marshall P21, and a difficult day in the start of this race ahead of Joe Pinder P22 there for Elimis by Connexus, and therefore round off the bronze podium of Kirby, Max and Pinder. And I do believe that is all 3 sister Connexus teams dominating the podium in the bronze class. Congratulations to them. What a way to start off the season. And Glenn Humberstone, Sean Cranley Swash, Jamie McEwen, Craig Schill, Stephen Ray, Mark Cadmore, and last but not least Sean Dobie there, all of your finishing positions. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, well, it is time now for our drivers to make their way to the grid for our second race of the day. You know what's coming. It is going to be the 30-minute feature race. It's time for us to find out who's got it over the distance. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid once again, this is how they'll line up for the second race of the day. In fact, we won't be able to walk you through the grid there, ladies and gentlemen. We just remembered that's another limitation of an iRacing replay file. So instead, we will just look to the grid as our drivers gradually form up in position. And as they do, so everyone get themselves comfortably set up here and all set to go. And well, who is going to be the faster driver off the line out of what will be, in the end, on that front row? The combination of the Apex Misters driver of Emil Koopmans, and well, alongside him, of course, off the front row, it is going to be, I do believe, none other. In fact, we do have there, I believe we've got a bit of a different car in position. We do have what is Lucas Romano there. Well, Lucas Romano starting at P7 in the end, so unless there's been something erroneous that's happened, or we're perhaps missing the car on the grid, that explains why Lucas Romano has been promoted, but still the grid is set, and well, it's time for the lights. It's lights out and away we go for our second race of the day there. Marcel Fritsch starting on pole. Not quite the story behind that, but still, he'll go away and in towards turn number 1 as they make the way into the opening braking zone, with 3 wide there onto the apex between what's Oystein Hereford, Emil Koopmans and Simon B. Bamber. And then Hereford gains 3 places at the cost of 1 corner as they make the way and around. Meanwhile, further and back, Tim Darracott side by side here with Corey Lazarus as they make the way through turn number 3 and charging their way down towards the braking zone they go. Down towards the Retro Posta braking zone, and as they do, it's going to be Lazarus on the right of your picture, tucking in behind what we saw in Bamber. Meanwhile, just behind them, side by side, that's Carl Velvers versus Nicholas Nold. Nold trying to make some early progress. Velvers being edged out there on the outside of turn number 4, and as they make the way up the hill towards turn number 6 now, more Lazarus really defend hard as Darracott tucks on in, as the drivers wind the one through. Ben Kirby versus Joe Pinder here. Well, Joe Pinder's had a phenomenal start compared to both Kirby and also the biggest perhaps loser out of that top 3 in the bronze class being Charlie Max, as he's lost out considerably. But as they wind the way on through, we look back to Felvers versus Nold here, as right now Felvers is not giving up versus Nold. Nold may have got ahead, but he's refusing to give in as they make the way into the braking zone for turn number 10. And Felvers once again on the inside, he'll be on the outside for 11. This is where he may have to give in now, given the fact that he is going to be on a much wider line to corner, and Nold can just really force him out as they make the way into the braking zone for turn number 12. But as they come on through, well, meanwhile we ride on board here with your leader Marcel Fritsch from WS Racing Esports as he comes towards the end of the first lap of this feature race in round number 2 as he charges his way onwards towards the next lap. Everybody right now full throttle blasting the way onto lap number 2, and well, here comes Oystein Hereford. He's looking for the move. He's going to go to the outside as they make the way into the braking zone, and as they come on down, Hereford looking to go all the way round. This is going to be brave stuff from Hereford. He loses the rear of the car. It snatches at him and he snatches back at the steering wheel, and he catches it just in time before it goes Wayford. But Hereford in the end, often I believe there might be a mechanical issue with the car in fact, and that might be a retirement for Oystein Hereford, and a very unfortunate one at that. And believe I've just had a word come through to say it is a technical issue for Oystein Hereford, and who was doing so well in the first race today. In this second race was race now, unfortunately, in ruins. But whereas he is lost, others will gain. And Marcel Fritsch right now will be grateful. He'll be thinking, where on earth's Hereford gone? Well, I've just got to focus on doing my race. They make the way up the hill. And as they do, we've had a bit of an incident. Oh, my good Lord. And we've had a major incident further on down the order here. That's Ben Kirby off the road. Also, Craig Schill. Wishing Hereford getting himself back together here. But I wonder whether the technical issue he's got is going to come back to plague him later on, given the fact that right now he just had to pull to the side. We've got a car. That was DDD Verlamen because had to be taken to the pits, or towed to the pits, we should say. So we're not quite sure what's happened, but we can tell you it's all gone very, very wrong. That's Joe Pinder pointing the wrong way. Well, he's definitely pointing 180 degrees in the opposite direction, but off the racing line. And the yellow is by Connexa's driver there. Well, he'll be absolutely fuming at the fact whatever's happened to him has cost him very dear. But in all of this, it does mean that Charlie Max now is your bronze leader ahead of what is Jamie McEwen. But looking from where it's all going wrong further down the field to up the field where things are staying relatively calm, if you can call it that, when the two leaders are separated by a tenth. If that, Marcel Fritsch and Emil Koopmans here, well, they're fighting right now for the lead of this race. 3 minutes in, on to lap number 3 they go. Fritsch on the inside, Koopmans on the outside, and meanwhile Bamber and Lazarus fighting side by side, and that is Lazarus launching it up the inside versus Bamber. A very, very deft pair of brakes there on that Porsche 902, I must say, and Lazarus right now absolutely clinical in getting the move done. To be fair, I think Bamber, respecting the fact there's a much longer race at stake here rather than just 12 minutes. And Bamber now looking to come back, but puts himself on the outside line there. And I think trying to send the message to Lazarus, look, I don't want to fight right now. I want us to get towards the leaders. And, well, there, just simply staying on the racing line. It's one way to try and get a message through to your rival. It can also be used as a dummy, of course. And as they make the way up towards turn number 6, well, we can see the best part of what is the top 9 here, all separated by a grand total of 3 seconds. But meanwhile, Koopmans gets it wrong at the corner. Bamber going quite slow on the inside, but Corey Lazarus there going all in. Fritsch goes a bit deep, although I'm not sure there was contact that triggered that, but as they make the way down in towards turn number 9, it's going to be Bamber around the outside of Marcel Fritsch, and Corey Lazarus is now your leader ahead of Bamber, with Fritsch and Koopmans losing place respectively. But meanwhile, it's an absolute medley here coming into turn number 10. That is Darracott getting ahead of Hammer, with Carl Feltus and Nathan Foster side by side as they make the way down through turn number 11. Foster here really trying to keep Feltus at bay, but I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, Feltus may not have the pace for his rivals in race number 1, but right now the Briton from HFT Racing, he is not holding back at all. He loves getting his elbows out, and we love to see this as we jump on board with a number 77 as it powers its way up behind Foster, making its way onto another lap. But as they charge their way all the way through and in towards what will be at lap number 4, well, Feltus here not quite able to close up, and I think this might be the sign that Feltus is running a little bit more rear wing compared to his rivals, and that would explain why from the middle sector he's coming on so strong compared to his rivals. He's just able to take more speed from corner to corner compared to his rivals. But here in the tow, of course, everyone's got the tow of one another, but he's just not gaining enough. But as they make the way onwards towards turn number 4, we have had clarification there from Fjords or Austin Hereford in the Twitch chat as to what happened, but we'll come back to that very shortly. As meanwhile, Marcel Fritsch here still under pressure from Emil Koopmans, and meanwhile Lucas Romano is trying to keep Philip Hammer at bay as they make the way on through turns 4 and 5, and that is, I do believe, Marcel Fritsch going a bit wide. That's going to be Darracott released up into P4 after coming out of turn number 5. And as they make the way through the uphill right-hander in turns 6 and 7, nose to tail they go. And well, right now, I can tell you one thing, we may only be 1/6 into this race, or 1/5 almost, but they're going to keep this up for the whole 30 minutes. We are going to be on for a cracker, and I may lose my voice by the end of this as they make the way out of turn number 9 up towards 10, because nobody right now inside this top 9 is giving anybody a chance to breathe, and that's the racing we love to see. And speaking of what we love to see, we also love to see moves into turn number 10. Nicholas Knoll there up the inside of Casper Tunstead, recovering a place after losing out a little bit earlier on, as he makes his way on down and through and in towards turn number 12 there. Car snaking about a little bit, and I think might have been trying to catch the car after a little bit of power oversteer as they make the way out of turn number 12. And up the hill they go. Well, I think Nicholas Knoll right now just trying to settle himself back down and go on the offensive once again. But it's not just about the battle at the very front of it, we've also got some battles further down the order, including Austin Hereford here trying to make his recovery after pulling out the cable of his steering wheel in turn 1 when he had to park the car up, and that's how he managed to get the car back together in terms of his back racing. But right now, a long way down the order, and he's got to try and find a lot of time if he wants to get back into that lead battle and pick up some major points in the gold class. as he heads into the braking zone here. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, we do have Joe Pinder and Craig Schill. Well, right now they're trying to go hunting versus old rival Sean Dobie. Indeed, these guys will be very familiar with one another, particularly Pinder and Dobie, who really were one of the big highlights of our first race of the day. And as they make the way up through turn 1 into 2, well, Dobie, they're taking plenty of apex go. You see the car bouncing around over the curb, and well, that may have just unsettled it slightly, but he's not lost any speed. And as they make the way on through turn 3 in towards 4, we look a bit up the order here to the silver class, and this is Navarro DeBova versus Sean Cranny Swash. To put it in context, they're battling for P5, and right now DeBova on the inside into 6-7. Swash going to have to go around the outside. It's going to be a tough one to do, but what he will do is he'll lurch the car back in for the cutback here into turn 8, but he's not quite close enough, and Navarro DeBova knows on that outside line he can brake a little bit deeper into the corner, because the corner gradually banks in, and therefore you can use the slight camber into the apex in order to rotate the car through. But as they make the way up towards turn 10, meanwhile from them we've got Casper Tunstead versus one is here Forsten Siffer, as they make the way in the battle for P3 in the silver class through turn 11, and Siffer getting his way up the inside, and the Ring Physio Sim Racing driver here continuing to demonstrate why he's not going to be a fluke in terms of podium finisher in the first race of the season. He was, of course, your second place finisher in race 1, and now he's trying to go for another podium as a minimum here. But Casper Tunstead says, hold up a second, I'm not quite done yet. And as they make the way across the timeline here to go into another lap, it's going to be Tunstead on the left of your picture, Siffer on the right of your picture, and Siffer will have the brakes to hold on to the position, but will he have the leverage going through turn 2 into 3? Because of course there's multiple lines you can take when you're battling here through what is the centre S, and right now Siffer does have the momentum. But looking from him up towards Lucas Romano, well, everybody right now all spanning out, all flocking out there like a flotilla of planes, and then making their way back together there, or like a bird essentially unfurling its feathers and then bringing them back and close on its wings, in the fact that all these guys right now looking for the places. And as we can see, Marcel Fritsch a bit further up the road battling with Lucas Mann at the front of this field. Meanwhile, Philip Hammer, Nathan Foster, Cole Felvis and Nicholas Knoll all looking to get involved, and there goes Hammer up the inside. Romano, meanwhile, the silver class leader, he doesn't need to be involved in this fight technically, but he wants to demonstrate his overall credentials. And well, Hammer going around the outside there, a bit of elbows out contact between the two of them, but on the inside goes Nathan Foster. He goes for one, and we can't quite find it in the end as Hammer does clear Romano, but Romano being attacked by Foster, but Foster there being squeezed the apex, and he loses all the places he went for plus more, as he loses out to both Cole Phillips and also Nicholas Nold. And when it goes to show, if you pick the wrong time to attack, it leads to you losing plenty of places and none of them coming back as they make the way through turn 12 and 13. And right now Nathan Foster's got it all to do once again. But still, we do know one thing about Nathan Foster, and that is he's a very resilient driver under these intense races, and therefore he's not going to give up at all as they make the way on to the next lap. And as they do, will Philip Hammer up the inside there, Marcel Fritsch. Previously teammates, these two, of course, representing Team Germany in season 6 and 7 of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup. And while they may now be separate drivers in terms of racing for separate teams, still good friends there. And I think Fritsch just respecting the fact that at this point in the race, Hammer is going to be the faster driver, and there's no point keeping him at bay when you still have 20 minutes of racing to go. But meanwhile, as they enter the braking zone, Cole Felvis, they're getting very close to the back of Lucas Romano. Contact between the two of them as Romano turns in. Felvis goes round with him, but Felvis loses out the most there as the car parks on the apex. Everybody takes the escape road there in order to avoid the stricken 77, and will making it safely on through. But meanwhile, with that and the drama that came on through, Casper Tunstead has found his way past Forsten Siffer as both drivers went wide, and well, now Casper Tunstead, the Dane, is absolutely trying to hold on to his P3 position in the 104, with Jeremy DeBova only 1.4 seconds in front, and it's a further 1.1 seconds to Lucas Romano after that contact between Romano and Felvis. So therefore the battle for the silver class lead is now shrinking down in terms of potential gaps, and I think Romano will just be thinking, okay, I've had my fun with the gold class drivers, I don't need to fight them anymore, they're a long way gone, I do not need to worry about myself with them, I just need to focus on my race. And meanwhile, looking from what's all the battling here, we have one man out in front who right now very comfortable in the lead of this race, and what's news in the Blackout Motorsport Ocar's Corey Lazarus here in the number 4, and well, you can understand why he's not been involved in the fighting after leaping into the lead for that phenomenal move earlier on. Well, right now everyone else fighting behind him means he's got got time just to protect the car, protect the tyres, and focus on getting to the end of this race. And with Marcel Fritsch being passed there by Nicholas Nold. Nold going up the inside, and Fritsch just playing it conservatively here. I think waiting to see what comes back in this race as time trickles on. And while we still do have plenty of time, would you believe, for all the battling we've had so far, we have only just about to clear the 12-minute of racing. And we're speaking of clearing things right now, the battle between Fritsch and Foster is not clear by any means. As Foster looks up the inside, Fritsch is going to be on the outside. He'll try and cut it back out the corner. And as we jump aboard here, we're the Austrian in number 27 in the tow. He goes at 2 tenths and closing. Good exit out the corner as he makes his way up the hill, but it's a short run into turn 6 and 7. I think Fritsch right now will have to combat the dirty air in front of him off the back of Foster's Porsche. What that will mean is he won't quite have the nose turn in that he would like, and therefore he'll have to simply either take earlier apex approaches, or he'll have to back the car off there and just settle in behind. But it's very tricky in these cars to run behind one another, particularly through very technical circuits or technical sectors, such as the middle sector here at Interlagos. And the whole point being, those who've got a lot of rear wing on the car, they really will start to feel the fact that that downforce they give themselves is being eroded away on the front end, and therefore the car is going to feel quite nose heavy into the corners. But as soon as the car in front starts to pull away, suddenly the nose comes back to you, and it's that jump in actors Fritsch there, which he gives us an example of coming through turn number 12. And I thought we cursed him a little bit there as he almost went round with the oversteer through the corner, but catched it just in time. Well caught that man. If he's not considered being a fielder in cricket, you may want to do so, because if he can catch a steering wheel like that, he may be able to catch a ball just as well. But as he makes his way out towards turn number 1, we move from vacational hobbies for the Austrian driver to what is back in the battle for P2 in the gold class and overall, as we do look to Emil Koopmans, the Apex Misters driver right now. Well, gradually falling away from race leader Corey Lazarus. The gap almost up to 4 seconds, but Koopmans, I think, focusing on what is going to be perhaps his first shot at a podium that we have seen in quite some time. And will the story of Emil Koopmans really been, he's been one of those drivers ever since his debut in season 4, if I go back through the history of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup, in the fact that he's always been a very fast driver. He's been a pole sitter on occasion. However, every time he's been in with a chance for a podium or the win, bad luck has always found its way to this one Dutchman. It's never found its way to any other driver as much as him, and right now in the 911 car, he will be hoping that today is where the good luck starts to come about. It's a whole new season, and well, the good luck came initially with that P8 in the first race today to put him on reverse grid pole. Oh, and as he makes his way down through turn number 10 in towards 11, right now with Simon B. Bamber and Tim Darracott and Philip Howard behind, he will be hoping that the racing gods are on his side and the pace stays with him all the way to the end of this one, as we still got half the race to go. And right now Emil Koopmans trying to hunt down a podium as he slides out of turn number 12 there, and I think that might be some tyre wear starting to build up for Willis Koopmans as they make their way through. Meanwhile, Tim Darracott on the inside here versus Bamber, and I think a poor run out of 12 for Bamber is going to give Darracott all the leverage he needs in order to go for the move. Bamber tucks back in. You can see there all of them right now trying to put themselves in the right place to go on the offensive. Bamber pulls into the inside, but a bit of contact there with Hammer, who pulls even deeper into the inside. 3 wide, they're going to the corner. Staggered, however, and as Darracott holds the position, Bamber now under increasing pressure as they roll off the corner and on through. A bit of oversteer there coming through turn number 2 for Bamber. He's pushing incredibly hard in that car, and I think the tyres might be starting to get a bit hot as they make the way down the retro Foster. And we're at a distance here, we can see it's going to be Hammer on the inside versus Bamber as they make the way into the braking zone. Hammer's going to go all in here, and I think Bamber's going to let it go. Look at the potential cut back out the corner, but if he can't find it, I think he'll just try and stay in arm's reach of this battle and try to follow Darracott and Hammer up towards Koopmans to the battle for P2. As they make the way on through at the next sequence of corners. Meanwhile, look back to Carl Felvers, who makes a move there on Casper Tunstead for P12 overall. That's going to open up the door for Oystein Hereford as well, who's now recovered already up to what is P13. Credit there to Hereford, making that progress rapid as a racer can do. And as he makes his way on through turn 6 and 7, well, right now it does look as though here Carl Felvers under increasing pressure, but we know that Felvers does not feel pressure. All he feels is the need to get his elbows out, albeit legally, and do it very well. And right now the HFT racing driver really has shown that once he may not be the fastest, he's definitely perhaps one of the trickiest to overtake or get away from once you're overtaking him. But he makes his way through turn at number 10 and in towards 11. Hereford very close already here as they make the way down through the sweeping left-hander, and a little bit further back. Meanwhile, Sean Cranley Swash has Navarro de Bova and also Glenn Humberstone and Chris Eddersford for extended company as they make the way through turn at number 11 and in towards Jinsao at turn at number 12. And Sean Cranley Swash currently P5 in the silver class, and we'll be looking at to try and hold on here as time wears on. But from them, we look a little bit further back here to what is Mark Cadmore in quite a bit of a damaged privateer Rexy machine, and well, Sean Dobie went very wide there at turn number 10, so Cadmore getting a place back that Dobie had just overtaken from him into turn number 10, albeit I think it was Dobie just getting it wrong under braking and overextending the corner that led to the original place swap, and therefore Cadmore was going to get it back. Point being these two fighting for P4 in the bronze class, and Dobie I think feels as though he's the faster driver, but he's got to try and find a way to get on past without overextending the corners as they make the way onto another lap now. Meanwhile, from them, we look to Ben Kirby versus Jamie McEwen. That's a close up there. Ben Kirby goes very deep into one. He's got the inside into two. McEwen tries to come back there, but in the end, forced around the outside if he was going to do it. But Kirby positioned himself very well on apex. And as they come out of turn number 3, Kirby getting the job done. Half a tenth, well, not half a tenth, half a second between the two of them as they make the way down the Retro Aposta in towards turn number 1 they go. Well, turn number 1, turn number 4. I don't know where the numbers are gone right now, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get it right eventually. And as they make the way through turn 4, it divide the number 19 driver here for All Spares by Connexus. Now I think settling back into him after losing out early on in the race, and well, his target will be Charlie Max, who is the best part of 7 seconds up the road, and Max having an absolutely faultless race. And well, here is the bronze class leader, P19 overall, and just controlling that lead right now. He doesn't need to do anything special, he just needs to take it one lap at a time. And despite the fact that Ben Kirby over the last 3 laps has gained on average half a second a lap on Max, given the gap between them and how many laps we expect to be remaining in this race, probably another 8 to 9 laps based on quick mathematics, Max can afford to lose some of that time. Well, indeed, he can afford to lose all that time. If you do the maths there, that's 5.5 seconds he would lose, anywhere between 5.5 and what would be 4.5 if we round it up and around slightly, and therefore Charlie Max will definitely feel confident. But meanwhile, we go, oh goodness me, and it's gone very wrong as we come to the gold class. And that's Emil Koopmans going sideways, and a going around in there was Tim Darracott. Now we've only caught the tail end of that. Oh my good lord, and it's gone very wrong there. That's Lucas Romano, the silver class leader, coming into contact with Koopmans, and Jeremy DeBover as well. DBR, both of their lead drivers in the silver class, ended up in disaster. Romano being towed to the pits, and with that, Forster Siffert comes on through to take the silver lead in what's been a dramatic twist of fate coming through turns 3. We're all started off with an instant in the gold class, which I think may have been between Koopmans and Darracott, or at least they were the two most affected by whatever happened, and now in return it's had consequences further down the order. Emil Koopmans had to be towed to the pits, so was Lucas Romano, and with that it means now, well, Lucas Romano, who was looking to make it 2 wins out of 2, well, the dream start to the season is no longer a dream, it's becoming half a nightmare, half an idealistic dream, and either way it's going to be a frustrating day for DVR, with also Jeremy DeBover heavily impacted by that, and well, right now I think trying to limp the car to the pit lane if it can make it through. There he is in P3 in the silver class behind Casper Tunstead, and well, right now the DBR machine still in this race, albeit you can see just how badly damaged it is on the front, and now I think it might even be crabbing slightly when the suspension is not pointing straight, it's pointing at an angle, and therefore the driver has to hold the steering wheel at an angle, not straight, to get the car to go in a straight line. And we get the picture there as he makes his way out of turn number 12. And as he roars his way onwards towards what will be the end of this lap, will he pull into the pit lane or will he fight on? I think DeBover here may be thinking about fighting on. Indeed he does, so he's going to try and go all in for this. And well, it's going to be a brave race either way. But meanwhile, looking from them back to the battle for P2 in the gold class, this is Bamber versus Noel versus Hammer. And right now, the UK Sim Racing admin team driver, he's going to have to try and keep the Impulse team behind, as we see Joe Pinder, they're getting off the road in order to obey the blue flags, albeit as they make the way on through there. Pinder being respectful to the blue flags, very respectful indeed. And Bamber right now with an 8.5 second gap to Corey Lazarus. I think Lazarus, he'll be looking in his rearview mirror and wondering where on earth has the rest of the field gone. Meanwhile, Bamber right now hasn't got time to think about anything other than just keep the car in front, as he is being harassed and hounded by Nold as they make the way on through turn number 9. We ride on board and look back from the rear here of the British 912 as they make the way, and into the inside goes Nold there as he looks at the move. It's going to be a deft overtake if he can go for it, but Bamber still holds the inside into 11. Side by side they come down here, and notice there Nold has to back off early because of the fact the corner goes from where slightly cambered to significantly off cambered in the space that runs the apex, but Bamber gets it wrong under braking and was a bit of oversteer there as he tried to turn into the apex, the car not wanting to negotiate, and in the end Bamber to catch the car, and he loses 2 places to what is the Impulse racing pair of Nold and Hammer in the space of 1 corner as they make the way onto another lap. And right now, Nold and Hammer, well, they've been released onto the track in terms of now they'll be looking to unleash their pace, but still, Nold going defensive here versus Hammer, so the two teammates aren't holding any punches either as they make the way down through 1 and 2. Hammer around the outside to inside, and Nold here loses the play, so Hammer now coming on through as they make the way through the left-hander of turn at number 3, and well, Nold's still there, and Nold, I think right now, we're thinking, no, that's not how this is going to go. I'm having that place back, thank you, as he looks up the inside here. Well, we love to see it, but I can imagine in the garage for Impulse Racing, the team right now might be biting their fingernails for the simple fact the worst thing you can have happen in a race, whether it be real world or simulated, is when teammates take one another out, and it's the last thing you want to see. You love to see them fighting one another, of course, because it leads to championship battles aplenty, but right now, Hammer does seem to have asserted a bit of control over this P2 versus Noel. Meanwhile, Bamba and Williams Nathan Foster still behind in P4, P5 of the gold class and overall respectively as they come on down. Meanwhile, speaking of battles for the lead, or at least the podium place in the class, this is the silver class lead battle you're looking at here. Top 3 of Austin Civet ahead of Casper Tunstedt and the heavily wounded car of Jeremy DeBova that still battles on, and as they weave their way through turns 8, 9 and 10, more going all the way through here, it does look as though Civet, whilst he is holding on to that lead, he's definitely under increasing pressure, as we're hearing there's been an off track for Simon Bamba coming out of turn number 11 off camera, and he's losing places of plenty from what I'm hearing in my ear, and I think the mistake at turn at number 11 is going to drop him down to P7 in the gold class and overall. So that's just a quick insight there of something that's recently happened. As meanwhile, we continue to look at this silver lead battle, and Civet getting the better run for turns 10 and 11, and not quite as good of a run out to 12 as he would like. In fact, Casper Tunstedt, like a rocket out of the corner, already up to turn 14, and he's gained the best part of a 10. I think Tunstedt could be in an attacking position here into turn 1, given it's 2 attempts now, and they're coming through the kink of 15, and well, Civet will need to go defensive here. There's no question about it. Tunstedt has got that car set up to be in the tow, very effective in the tow. Civet goes defensive as they come into 1, side by side they go through the corner. Now, can Tunstedt get it all the way around the outside into the inside of 2? He can. Tunstedt goes for it here. It's beautiful racecraft between the two of them. Jeremy Doe watches on the background, but Casper Tunstedt takes the lead of the silver class here with 7 minutes to go. Jeremy Doe now on the back of Civet as he makes his way to the outside, coming out of 3 down towards 4, and well, Civet coming across there. DeBova cuts back to the inside, goes through on the brakes, all in goes Jeremy DeBova, and what I can imagine that DBR machine must be uncomfortable to drive, but if so, the Belgian driver is not showing any signs of that, as right now he takes P2 and he'll be looking to try and take on Casper Tunstedt for the win of this race, albeit Forsten Civet will be watching that from behind and thinking how he can get back into the battle. But the big question is as well, given how deep we are into the race, have the tyres gone off to some drives, and is Civet perhaps the driver who's feeling it the most out of these 3, in the fact the car's just not quite in the zone anymore, given the fact these tyres do go so rapidly. But as he makes his way through turn at number 9 and in towards 10, well, that's a thought we can only ponder on as he makes his way up through the right-hander at turn at number 10, and we'll have to see whether he can make a resurgence in the very late stages of this race as they wind on down. Meanwhile, here looking back to the battle of P4 in the silver class, this is the battle between Glenn Humberstone and Sean Cranley Swash as they come on round and down. And we'd just like to take a quick moment, ladies and gentlemen, to say that whilst the racing did occur this time last week, if you do want to vote for your driver of the day, it's Glenn Humberstone there, gets it wrong coming out of turn 12. Let's pause that thought for a moment. Getting it wrong in terms of a bit of oversteer coming out the corner, catches the car on the brakes, but has to lock up the brakes to do so, and that's going to cost him a lot of tyre life. And meanwhile, there's a bit of contact there between Bamba and what is Fritsch coming on through with turn number 3. Well, I think these two had a little bit of exchange for position over the course of the run towards turns 1 and 2, and the altercation continues here as what is Austin Hereford makes it 3 wide on the left-hand pitch of Bamba in the middle, Fritsch on the inside, and well, as they come through the corner, they all make it to a stop in the end. Fritsch looks up the inside, Bamba carries the speed out of the corner despite being on the outside line, and Hereford looking on behind him, rubbing his hands together, albeit he won't be right now, taking them off the steering wheels. He looks up the inside there of Marcel Fritsch, and well, Bamba now under pressure from perhaps the man who's on route to make a phenomenal recovery here today from the back of the field as they come through turn number 8 for the 16th time of asking. And wind on down right now, a quick thought, ladies and gentlemen, in the fact that if you do want to vote for your driver of the day, votes are open currently, and there is a Google Forms link that's just been posted in the Twitch chat. Do let us know who has caught your right here today at Interlagos. Is it perhaps Austin Hereford, who's recovery driver in the feature race? Is it Simon Bamba for the fact that whilst he may have got it wrong for the battle of the P2, he's been fighting in amongst some of the finest drivers in the gold class that this series has ever seen? Or could it be perhaps in the silver class right now, Casper Tunstedt's drive to what could be potentially his first win of the season? Do let us know there, and we'll remind you a little bit later, votes close at midnight tonight, British Summer Time or Universal Coordinated Time +1. But coming back to the racing in here, for looking on the inside as they make their way across the tyre line to lap 17 they go. Bamber there on the outside here trying to hang it round, but he's not going to be able to if Heather can get fully ahead and get it parked. He does exactly that, and Oistin Heather does take P6 for now. We jump on board here with a 912 of Bamber as he makes his way through the left-hander. In fact, name now known as Simon C. Bamber there. We'll get that correct on the broadcast for next time. And as they make the way down the Retro Aposta, I do wonder whether his middle name changes from season to season in terms of the alphabetical letter. But as they make the way into the braking zone, Simon, if you watch this, do let me know. Heather goes a little bit deep as he makes his way through turn number 4. But will Bamber be able to capitalise? It doesn't look like he will be able to. He'll still be tucked in as they make the way up towards turn number 6, coming through at the double right hand they go. Well, these two may be nose to tail, but right now Heather does look to be just establishing at that 3/10 of the second gap, and that might be a gap that's comfortable enough for him to be able to stay one step ahead come at the end of this race. As they come out of turn at number 9 here, you see Bamber with more power oversteer there, and those rear tyres I think are starting to go on the UK Sim Racing admin team drivers. Oh, goodness me, and that was a shunt on the back of Hereford's car there. You can hear the whack as they came into the corner, and will Bamber getting very close, a bit too close for comfort. He fights with the steering wheel. I think this car is on the ragged edge of adhesion right now, and Bamber doing very well to wrestle the car around. I can imagine that impact on the front of the car will not have helped the feeling on the front end of the car as he makes his way out of the corner. But the tyres are dead, and Simon Bamber in the Twitch chat, they're saying the same as well as they make their way onwards towards turn at number 1 from what will be, I do believe, the penultimate time here today. Meanwhile, further back we've got Glenn Humberstone off the road. That's at turn number 9. The ATEC Tech driver, well, a bit of a difficult moment there for the 212 as he does return. He drops down to P21 overall. He doesn't lose any places in class, I do believe. In fact, he does lose one. He loses P7 in the silver class to Gus Franken, who's made his way on through. But always Humberstone primarily losing places overall to bronze class drivers. And well, we haven't really talked too much about the bronze class recently, given the fact it's quite silent in the class at the moment. But here is your bronze leader of Charlie Max of Friends Racing by Connexus, still holding an advantage of what is 4.5 seconds over Ben Kirby. And Kirby now starting to show weaker pace. I think Kirby's tyres may have fallen off the cliff by comparison. Max has had a lot more time to really nurse the tyres through this race by comparison. And then we do have Sean Dobie a further 10 seconds behind in P3 with what is Jamie McEwen, who is closing in fact on the back of Dobie, and we could see McEwen potentially look for the move for P3 right towards the end of this race. But right now this is Max versus Franken as they battle for overall P16 coming on through turns 4 and 5, but Max are trying to go around the outside and not working out in the end. But as they make the way up the hill, the closest battle on circuit for class lead is here in the silver class. It's Casper Tunstead versus Jeremy DeBova. DeBova on the inside. It's a lock-up, and there's contact between the two as Tunstead turns in, only to find the straight line bullet machine of what was DeBova there going on with its lock-up on the brakes. DeBova has got the move done. I'm not sure if Tunstead's going to be too pleased with that given the way it played out, but still DeBova will try to hold on circuit at least as they make the way out of turn number 12 and up towards turn number 15. And right now Tunstead trying to get back into this race with Sevier behind him, and we'll keep in mind that Boston Sevier will be looking to try and get back onto that second step of the podium at least, if not the win, given the fact he's P3 in class right now as they make the way onto their final lap here at the Interlagos circuit today. But they charge in to the braking zone here for turn number 1. I think everybody now just tiptoeing on their tyres. I think the tyres are primarily gone for most of our drivers, and that is where the degradation has really picked up. But as they wind their way on towards the Retro Aposta here for our silver lead battle, we're making the way on down towards the braking zone. Will DeBova be under pressure into the braking zone? No, he will not. 4 tenths is the gap, and well, as he comes on through the left-hander with Tunstead behind. Meanwhile, we look up to the Impulse Racing lead car of Philip Hammer, and he is making his way through turn at number 10 right now. But the problem is he's 7 seconds down on this man, Corey Lazarus, who, as he makes his way out of the final major corner at turn number 12, the Blackout Motorsport OPR driver from New Zealand found his way into lead early on this race, and after taking the lead has not looked back. It has been a dominant drive here, one without a single mistake, and as he comes to line, Corey Lazarus will take his first win of the season in this feature race at Interlagos in Brazil. The win in the end in the gold class and overall by 7 seconds over Impulse Racing's Philip Hammer P2, and then it will be Nicholas Nold who completes a 2-3 for Impulse Racing. Nathan Foster P4 ahead of Tim Darricott, who will come across the line shortly in P5, and as he makes makes his way to the line. Will Dowcott 9 today was hard. It was fast and furious, but he managed to finish ahead of Oistin Herford at P6, with Simon Bamber P7, Marcel Fritsch P8, Carl Felvers P9, and then sometime it's 10 seconds, but this man will come through with a heavily wounded car, but Jeremy Dover will take the silver class win here in the feature race at Interlagos by 1.5 seconds over Casper Turnstead, who was the runner-up, Forsten Svet P3, and then it will be Sean Cranny Swash, who just missed out on the silver podium, but keeps Chris Ederson at bay. Navarro de Boa P15 behind P6 in the silver class header. Gus Franken, who'll be your next finisher, P16, but behind him will be Ben Kirby, who makes it, I believe, back-to-back bronze wins here today. Congratulations to the double winners debut for the All Spares by Connexus driver. 4.5 seconds clear of Charlie Max for the two. In fact, Charlie Max having an off track at the end of the race, getting it wrong and losing himself the win, and the 621 driver will be gutted for that, and Sean Doby making it a podium there for Clicks Racing and continuing his streak of podiums from last season, with Jamie McEwen P20 at P4 in the bronze class, and then it will be what is Glenn Humpstone P21, and your final finisher on the lead lap will be Mark Cadmore, who will be P22, with DDD Blamey, I believe, classified as a lap down in terms of where he finished P23, and the field behind as well, also a lap down. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen, from start to finish. I can tell you one thing, a phenomenal race, it must be said. And, well, if that is what we're to expect all season, we are in for a treat, because whilst Philip Hammer and Nicholas Knoll were both very strong today, they found themselves coming up against some very stiff competition in terms of battling the way on through. And normally, we said when you have Philip Hammer behind you, there are only two things that are certain. Well, in fact, in the feature race, there are only two things that are certain. One, the fact that the feature race is 30 minutes in length and the tyres will go off at some point. And two, that if Philip Hammer is having to make his way through the field, he'll start off slow and he'll come roaring through. But today, well, he was made to wait a long time to get into P2 and even battling with teammate Nicholas Knoll. And could that be a theme of this season? Keep in mind that Hammer looking to try and come back for the gold title after losing it to Thomas Cope from Olympus Esports, who wasn't on the grid today, but I've had it on authority that he'll be back for round number 3, ladies and gentlemen. But Hammer will have laid down an initial gauntlet, but indeed many of our drivers will have, as Jeremy Dover makes his way to the pit lane here, and in a wounded car that definitely have seen better days, the DBR driver, I think, will be absolutely proud of his achievement, albeit the contact in the end between himself and Casper Turnstead. I think Turnstead will be a little bit gutted with how that's played out, but still, as they make their way into the pit lane, if anything is going to play out, I think it will be a fantastic silver championship as well over the course of this season. We have seen today over 7 drivers in the silver class all vying for the podium, and 4 of them vying for the win. But as they all make their way into the pit lane, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to take a look at those race results subject to any Stewards inquiries. And we do see that Jock Moore asking if we can get a replay of the bronze leaders last lap. Unfortunately, we can't quite do so due to the fact that we are looking on iRacing at replay files, so we can't go back, so do apologise for that. And we do say hello there to Olympus TC, who's a bit late to the show, but do keep in mind, if you have missed this broadcast, it will be available as a video on demand on the UK Sim Racing Twitch channel after today's broadcast, and it will also be available on the official UK Sim Racing YouTube channel after today. I believe it will be up within 24 hours, and then you can get the full broadcast then and there. But looking at the results from our second race of the day then, Corey Lazarus taking the overall and gold class win there for Blackout Motorsport OPR by 7 seconds over Impulse Racing's pair of Philip Hammer and Nicholas Nold. Was a 2-3 for them, albeit in different order this time compared to the first race of the day, but both of them working hard to make their way through, but nobody in the end could reel in the fast charging New Zealander in the number 4. Nathan Foster P4 for Empire Motorsport in another strong performance, 6 seconds clear of Tim Dowcott for Effect Simulations, and then Hydro Race GD Racing Oistin Hereford recovering after falling off the circuit due to a technical issue on what was the second lap at turn number 1, parking the car, dropping a P29 and then getting the technical issue sorted and recovering all to P6. A great performance there from the 37 driver. And then, as we can see, at Simon B. Bamber P7 for UK Sim Racing admin team. In the end, only 1.4 seconds clear at WS Racing Esports Marcel Fritsch. Carl Felvers completing a run of gold drives to P9 overall for HFT Racing, and definitely one to watch out for. Some fantastic defending and battling from Felvers, it must be said. I think that P9 is not representative of how hard he's tried today, it must be said. And then Jeremy DeBoer P10 there overall, and your winner in the silver class for DBR by what was 1.5 seconds over Casper Turnstead. Best the rest P11 overall, but second place in the silver class for Peak Sim Racing, and only 2 tenths clear of Forsten Svert for Ring Physiat Sim Racing, who rounds off the silver podium of DeBoer, Turnstead and Svert. We now have Sean Cranley-Swash, P4 in silver, P13 overall, ahead of Chris Eddersford, with the UK Sim Racing admin team driver holding off Navarro de Bola and Gus Franken in the end. And then coming towards the end of the top 20, we can see it's a double win today for Ben Kirby for All Spares by Connexus, taking the win over Charlie Max, who unfortunately with an error on the final lap, losing what looked to be a certain win. But still, I think for the 621 driver, it's only a sign of things to come in terms of his performance today being very strong, and I'm sure that first win is going to come sooner rather than later. Behind the Friends Racing by Connexus driver is Sean Dobie for Clicks Racing, who completes the podium for the bronze class of Kirby, Max and Dobie. Then Jamie McEwen just missing out on the bronze podium this time around, but the Iron Brew by Connexus Motorsport driver making it a P20 overall and P4 in class. Glenn Humberstone P21 ahead of Mark Cadwell, who was the last driver to finish on the lead lap. And then finishing a lap down, DDD Valami, Lucas Romano, Craig Shield, Stephen Ray and Joe Pinder. And then what was 7 laps down as classified Emil Koopmans with that unfortunate retirement, but as he did complete over half the race laps accounted for, which was a grand total, I do believe, of 18 laps, he will be classified as a finisher. And therefore Roxanne Marshall will unfortunately be our sole retiree from this race, will be classified as a non-finisher, as the 24-hour Punty People driver only managed to do 4 laps in, not half the race distance. But 19 starters, 2 retirees, 27 finishing on circuit, I should say. What a fantastic race, it must be said, and well, definitely has pitched us forward for a fantastic season of racing to come. And well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude our racing here today at the Interlagos circuit. But just before we do step away in preparation for some potential post-round interviews with our drivers, albeit it's been a week ago since they raced, but we're going to offer them the opportunity to potentially come on the live broadcast for an interview if they do remember. We'd like to just let you know that if you have been a long-time supporter of UK Sim Racing, or perhaps you're new to UK Sim Racing and you've been enjoying the race and the broadcast, and if you've been wondering how you could potentially support the community, did you know there's a quick way to do so via our affiliates? For UK Sim Racing is affiliated with multiple sim racing and real world motorsport companies, which include Swilling Almeida Sim Racing Coaching, Race Anywhere, and Doing Tweaks. And if you do head to our official website, which is going to appear on screen very shortly, and that website may be found at uksimracing.co.uk today, and here it is. In the top right corner of the screen, there is a link to our official Discord. Now, if you join our official Discord, the first thing is, you may be asking, why would you want to join our Discord? Well, there's multiple reasons for that. If you ever want to be on the grid with us for either an official event, alternatively, one of our leagues, you need to be a member of the UK Sim Racing Discord. It's a mandatory requirement so you can attend the safety briefings before we go racing. But also, perhaps more relevantly to supporting the community, we do have a number of discount codes which are available from our affiliates only on the official UK Sim Racing Discord. And if you as a consumer were to use one of those discount codes as part of your purchase, will you end up in pole position for a discount, and therefore you save a little bit of money, but also it's a win for the community, and the fact that every penny we make from our affiliate earnings is invested back into the community. We're a non-profit organisation, and at the end of the day, every penny goes back in order to fund future series, including the Porsche Cup, the GT3 GTP Multiclass League, and plenty more we have planned for 2023 and onwards. So do remember, a little purchase can go a long way in supporting UK Sim Racing. What can also go a long way right now is a brief breather. We'll be back in approximately 10 minutes time for our post-round interviews. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are back for our post-round interviews, and indeed we do have some. Now, we do apologise for the extended delay in bringing these interviews. We have, off-screen, had a couple of things to look into, including Carl Felvis actually being a silver class driver, not a gold class driver, so therefore having to be informed about that and the way it's changed the results from today, meaning that he was your winner in the feature race in the silver class and second place finisher in the heat racing class, rather than being the bold and brazen battler we saw in the gold class. Indeed, a stellar day he's had today in the silver class. And, well, we also will be hearing not just from Carl Felvis, who'll be our second interviewee, but we'll be hearing from Oystein Hereford, our gold interviewee, who'll be first up for Hydro Race GD6 Racing, and hearing about his trials and tribulations on circuit. And then what will be our final interview of the day, we're getting a word from Oystein, well, not from Oystein Hereford, we're getting a word from Thomas Koch, the Olympus Esports Vanguard defending champion, who wasn't on circuit today, but he'll be back for round number 3, and we'll get to hear his thoughts on going racing. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to jump into what is the Discord channel now to speak to none other than Oystein Hereford. And as we do have the chance to catch up with Oystein, good evening to you, Oystein, and what a difficult day it's been for yourself not at Indianapolis, at Interlagos, so I get my bearings correctly, but brilliant batting all the same, and it looks as though you're enjoying yourself out of the circuit.
Yeah, I mean it was fun to be back league racing again. I haven't done that since March maybe. So that was a lot of fun. And although during qualifying I sort of had a half spin in both my attempts. So I didn't really qualify as high as I thought I was gonna do after or to race 1, but yeah, I mean, even though I think I pretty much maxed out race 1, I think, and then in race 2, I obviously, I used to wrap the cable of the steering wheel. I used to wrap that around the front mount on my rig, and this time I didn't do that. So when I had to save it into turn 1, I sort of slammed the gas pedal, and then the cable went out. And then when I put it back in, I sort of didn't realize that I had put it back in, so I geared between reverse, neutral, and first like 50 times probably before I realized that it works now. And then I was last, but it was fun battling from last place as well.
Oh, indeed. And what mixed fortunes you had in the feature race, having to literally go from what was a great start to the back of the field and make your way back on through. But just with regards to the fact, of course, back league racing once again, and we're very happy to see you on circuit. How have you found it adapting to this Porsche 992 Cup car?
I have been racing it for a while now because we're doing I'm doing some team racing in the Porsche Cup, so I have been driving it for a while. It's I mean it's closer to my driving style, I'd say, more than GT3s or GT4s even, because it's a little bit more understeery, especially on turning. So I mean it's it feels good. I know a lot of people complain about the car, but for me it's a good match.
Oh, a good match for a good driver, and whilst qualifying perhaps didn't go to perfection, we got to see in the heat race you really turn up the heat versus some of the silver class drivers around you. And I have to imagine, whilst you're only scoring points for where you finish in class, it must be fun to fight with some of the faster drivers in the class that's just behind.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was even fun battling some of the bronze drivers, I think, in the feature race. So it's like it feels like no matter where you are on the grid for this, you always have someone to battle with. The pace advantage might be a little bit big to some of the drivers in some of the classes, but I mean, still, you have bronze drivers putting on really good defensive moves into turn 1, for example. I had a really fun battle with the bronze driver there. So, I mean, it doesn't really depend on what class you're racing against. as long as the defensive moves and the attacking moves even are fair and within the rule book, then it's doesn't really matter where you are on the grid. You can always have someone to fight with. So it was great.
Oh, indeed, and that's fantastic to hear. And like, well, as the saying goes, always fair in love and war. But I like to change it to always fair in what is racecraft and sim racing. Definitely demonstrating that in every battle today from yourself. And of course, may not have been the best results, a P7 in the heat and a P6 in the feature racing class, but we've still got plenty of rounds to go, and as of next week, the first endurance race round of the season at the Circuit of the Americas. How are you feeling for it?
Uh, Kota is a track that I have done well on in the past, and I also think the endurance format fits me a bit better because I tend to take care of the tires more in a heat race, especially the 12 minutes where you really have to get your elbows out and like fight for positions. Then yeah, it's not really my strong suit, that. But endurance racing is something that fits me a bit better. So might do better there, though. I think I maxed out the results, to be honest. There were some blistering laps from the guys in front, especially in the feature race. So I don't know. Would be cool to have a top 5 in the championship or something similar, close to that. And yeah, we'll just see, I guess. I'm gonna keep practicing, I guess. So, or I don't guess, I am going to practice more and see where I end up at the end of the season.
Oh, indeed, and we look forward to that practice and seeing how it pays out for yourself. But just before we do let you go, Oystein, is there anybody you'd like to say thank you or give a shout out to live on the broadcast tonight?
Well, I have to shout out to my team, of course, Hydro Race, Geodesic Racing. I have some great teammates there that I practice with every week. I also have to say hi to my mom and dad because I know they watch this broadcast, especially when you cast. Actually, they think you're one of the best. They have seen a couple of races now, and yeah, they're really fond of you. So and also my brother and my girlfriend, they're also watching. So 4 free viewers when I race. That's a good thing.
Oh, 100%. And hello to the Hereford family out there. And glad to have you all tuning in. For Oystein, for yourself, great racing for yourself at the Interlagos circuit. Perhaps not the results that many would say were fantastic, but if you're able to max it out and get those finishing positions, then well done to you. And we expect plenty more great things from you as the season goes on. But until then, good luck with the practice for Kota, and we'll see you out on circuit in a week's time.
Thanks, Paul.
So hearing there from Oystein Hereford, the Hydro Race GDC racing driver in the 37, who in his own words experiencing a degree of technical issue due to pulling a wire out of his steering wheel midway through the feature race. But still, if we break it down to components, qualifying not quite going too well, making mistakes on both of his laps, but still taking that P11 on the grid overall in that P9 in class and working with it. And as he mentioned, maxing out in both races with the pace of his peers around him. That P7 in the heat race being intensely earned, and the same with the recovery to P6 in the feature race. And what a recovery it was from P29 at the back of the field to wind his way on through. And well, whilst he perhaps may not rate himself as highly at the moment compared to his rivals, I definitely think he's going to be one of the drivers to watch out for this season. I think if he can find those couple attempts over the next couple of rounds, we could really see Oystein Hereford come alive in the midpoint of the season, and he could quite be a dark horse to watch out for as we get close to those championship contention rounds towards the very end. But still, it's early days. It's only 2 rounds in. That's my hypothesis, however, and we'll have to wait and see whether it's true or not. As we now come to our second interview, ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to be having a word with Carl Felvers, the silver class driver who was incorrectly listed as a gold class driver for the majority of today's broadcast. We do apologise for that, but we've got it fixed for next time already. And as he joins me in the interview room very shortly, we'll get to hear his perspective on things. In fact, we speak to Carl now. Good evening to you, Carl, and well, despite the fact we listed you as gold on the broadcast for the majority of the time, we've got you as silver now, and we've got your updated results in. And what a day at Interlagos it was for yourself. A second place in the heat race and a win in the feature race, all the meanwhile batting with silver and gold drivers galore. You must be absolutely pleased with your debut performance.
Yeah, I think it was really good coming into a new championship that I'm not really used to, not really familiar with anyone in the championship, and I think to be competing for the top step of my class was really good. So it was a really enjoyable night, and looking forward to the rest of the season.
Oh, indeed. And on that, with regards to enjoying the racing out here, is Interlagos a circuit that you go well at normally, or was it just, say, the ideal combination today?
I do really like Interlagos. I normally compete well when I'm doing other series on the platform here, so it is a circuit I do enjoy, and it is a circuit I can get around quite quickly, and I think that did benefit me a lot in the races because it helped with my pace. But I think some of the tracks that we've got coming up in the season aren't really my favourable ones, so we may struggle further on there.
Indeed, and on that, with regards to the potential struggles and whatnot, what do you feel is perhaps the hardest part of driving this Porsche Cup car?
I think the no traction control and no ABS makes it really difficult, especially the no ABS when you're going for a move and you try and brake slightly later and you haven't taken that line before. And the ABS, well, it just doesn't kick in, obviously, because there is none and you lock up. I think that makes it really difficult to go for moves because you've got to try and anticipate where you need to brake safely.
Well, indeed, it's a tricky balancing act, and well, I can tell you, I can tell anybody tuning in right now, if you think it's easy, give one of these a try. Particularly when you've gone from, say, racing at GT3s and iRacing to Porsche Cup cars, you'll see exactly what Carl's referring to. But coming back to yourself, Carl, in terms of battling for position and whatnot, a great qualifying session which saw you take P2 in class, P10 on the grid, I do believe. And in that first race, a second place in the end. Lucas Romano looked to be just slightly out of reach, but all the way through, you were keeping him honest, always within 2 seconds of him.
Yeah, I think it was a good race. This start I had a lot of wheel spin, so I lost a few places there, and then I just couldn't seem to find enough pace to get back up to him. I think if I could have found a little bit more, I could have caught, but no, he was a really quick driver and he had the pace.
And then coming on to the feature race, we got to see there the fact that early on, a relatively strong start, and as we saw Lucas Mano end up in a bit of an instant with the Goldfield really having an instant in front that everyone came into, you found yourself suddenly in amongst a lot of gold drivers, and it was very elbows out racing.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to classes, I think if you're halfway through into a race and a gold driver is significantly quicker than you coming up behind you, then sometimes it's the most sensible decision to let them pass. But I think at the end of the day, we're all racing in the same race. So I think having battles with people, it makes enjoyable entertainment and it makes for an enjoyable race. And I think that's what we're all here to do. So, battles are what we all want.
Oh, 100%, and some phenomenal battles, but all the way through, still mindful of the fact that needing to try and take the class, win in the end, and leading the class for such a sizable period of time. And I was asked, was there a point that perhaps you thought, you know what, I need to turn this down a notch now and just focus on taking the checker flag in class?
I think, yeah, I think towards the end we started to chill out a bit. I realized I was in first, and I think it took me a while to realize that, and then from there we were just driving a safe race, trying to bring it home.
Well, indeed, that's fair and a very sensible approach at that. But of course, gaining some major points there, and I think it may be sufficient points to put you right on top of the standings going into our third round, which lies in a week's time. The Circuit of the Americas. Some love it, some hate it. It's quite the Marmite circuit. What's your thoughts on it?
I think it's a very interesting circuit with how the corners form. There's a lot of tight, twisty corners and a lot of like flowy corners. So I think it is an interesting circuit, and the elevation doesn't come into play and help that at all. It's not really my personal favourite, but we'll give it a good go.
Oh, indeed, and we look forward to you giving that a good go. And we'll speaking of which, just before we do let you go, Carl, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
I'd like to give a big shout out to my team, HFT. I think we all have they've been supporting me going up to this championship. They've been looking forward to watching it, and I think big shout out to my whole family as well. I know my parents were watching this evening, and they've absolutely loved it. Like Oystein said before, your broadcasts are amazing, and they're loving them so far. So.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, Carl. And well, coming back to yourself, it's been a phenomenal start to the season for you in the number 77 and the HFT racing machine shining on strong. We look forward to whether you can carry on that momentum in the next race of the season in a week's time. But until then, have a great rest of your evening and savour what has been a great debut.
Thanks, Paul.
So hearing there from Carl Felvis, the silver class driver, who really today absolutely on fine form from start to finish, and well in the P2 in qualifying class, carrying through to P2 finish in the heat race, and then the win in the feature race. Definitely has set the bar very high, but the question will be, can anybody find a way to step up to the plate, or will Carl Felvis perhaps take a win next time out at the Circuit of the Americas and establish himself as an early favourite in the silver class? Well, given how close the pace is, I think that might be it might be a wide distance idea, but you never know. Indeed, it only takes a couple of rounds to build some momentum, and we could see Carl really start to run off into the distance. Now we come to our third interview, ladies and gentlemen, albeit we may not have one final interview, we may have two more interviews to come. But we're now going to get a word from a driver who was not on the grid today, but indeed he was waiting in the wings, and we're going to be coming to the man himself of what is Thomas Cope very shortly to hear his perspective on being a spectator this time around rather than being in the race itself. And as he gets ready to join me in the interview room, we'll get to hear his thoughts on what definitely has been watching from the sidelines as defending champion. And I believe we're also going to get a word from Ben Kirby before all is said and done today as our fourth interview. I think he's just got himself ready to volunteer. But we come to the man who was the man of the hour in season 7. Joining me in the interview room is Thomas Cope. Thomas, you've been sat on the sideline for the opening 2 rounds due to personal circumstances, but of course that could only make you itch to go racing even more and begin your title defence. I have to ask, how does it feel to be a spectator for the first 2 rounds of the season?
Well, it's no stranger to me. I had a couple of rounds last season where I had to miss out, and I was away on holiday for a couple of them, so I was a spectator. But yeah, it just gets me egged on a little bit more and gets me ready. We'll see for round 3. I think Kota is going to be an interesting race. I'm eager and ready to go. So we'll see what the fight of those impulse cars can bring.
Oh, indeed. And with regards to the racing today, we got to see a huge amount of battling up and down the field in all classes, but particularly focusing on the gold class. And Nicholas Nold looks to be quite the equal to teammate Philip Hammer. Of course, yourself and Hammer enjoying some phenomenal battling over the course of the previous season, as we do bring up some pictures of Hammer on circuit today. But I have to ask the question, are you perhaps looking at Nold right now and thinking that you might be in what is a three-way fight and it's 2 impulse racing drivers against you?
Well, it's definitely going to be a big fight with a couple of cars. I mean, Corey's got some really good pace as well, so he's not going to be far off the pace with us as well. And Oyston will probably tell you otherwise, but I think there's going to be a round where he's going to be up there with us as well, because he's got something on the cards that he doesn't even realise he's got himself yet. So, but yeah, I mean, I raced against Philip and Nicholas in another championship as well, and both of them are quite the equal. They're really good drivers, probably 2 of the top 50 in the Porsche Cup on iRacing. So yeah, they know what they're doing. They've got some really good pace, and obviously they showed it in the race tonight. So against each other, I just can't wait to get on track and make it a 3-car fight. And Kota is going to be really interesting, being the endurance round as well.
And that actually brings me on to my next question. Why do you feel Kota's going to be an interesting circuit?
It's just one of them. It's a twisty wide track, so you've got the one long back straight and you've got the front straight, and then you've got some heavy braking zones in such a turn of 1. I can't remember all the corner names and numbers off by heart, but you've got quite a few heavy braking zones on the end of straights and such. It's going to get interesting. You've really got to know your car and know how to get the maximum out of each corner and how to get it slowed down to the best point. And you've got obviously the S's which are really demanding on the tyres. So it's going to be asking a lot out of the car in general, with the heavy braking zones and tyres. The tyres are going to really wear off very quick throughout the race. And yeah, it's just going to be a spicy race, I think, with everything that's got to be put on the cards, and yeah, and just the mentally racing each other once again on a league race.
Oh, indeed, and we know you're a man that when things do get spicy, you can definitely handle the heat. We've seen it time and time again, and we do look forward to you being out on circuit for the next round in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, indeed, this really has been a bit of a teaser for our viewers going into next week's round. Is there anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to on the broadcast?
Yeah, everyone on the team. I know a lot of the guys, and I'm really the only Olympus driver returning this season, so the team's championship may go the way of Impulse this year, with them having 2 drivers that are going to be consistently towards the top of the standings. But yeah, we're going to try and do what we can for the driver championship. We're all working together still. We've all got other championships as well that we're all trying to work towards. So just the whole team, everyone, putting in some solid work for what they do and what we all do as a team. And Charles, for getting me back on the grid, he really pushed me to behind the scenes to really sign back up and go again and try and defend that championship, even if I'm a bit busier than I was last year with a few more championships going around at the same time. But yeah, just everyone behind the scenes of the team and the family keeping me going in sim racing and everyone there as well.
Well, I must say, if Charles, you're listening right now, a big thank you to you for ensuring that this man's back on the grid for this season, because I can tell you one thing, it's going to be a thriller. And with that, Thomas, it's been a pleasure to have you join us in the interview today. And we wish you all the best luck in your final preparations for round 3 in a week's time, and also for your ongoing commitments in other sim racing series. We look forward to hearing more about those as the season goes on. But until then, have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you at the Circuit of the Americas.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So hearing that there from our defending champion from Olympus Esports Vanguard, not on the grid tonight, but really with him being around, it's great to hear from the driver who next week will be on the grid and will immediately need to be on fine form, and that being Thomas Cope, the number 64 driver, and you'll get to see him out there in the colourful Olympus Esports machine. And we're talking about then the fact that with more commitments this season compared to last season, his time's going to be limited, but he will be on the grid to defend that crown, and looking at a number of drivers in the gold class. And not just the Impulse Racing drivers of Nold and Hammer, but also the likes of Oystein Hereford and also Corey Lazarus. And there are going to be plenty of rivals for him to contend with. And it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in that season opener. But now we come to our last but not least interview, ladies and gentlemen. He snuck on in right at the end, and to be fair, when somebody does this, we can't blame him. It's always good to have 4 interviews out of our 4 slots available. We're going to be hearing from the man of the hour in the bronze class, and that is Ben Kirby, who had a phenomenal debut as of the round in Interlagos. He joins me now in the interview room. Good evening to you, Ben, and well, what better way to put yourself on the map in the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup than a first place in qualifying, a first place in the heat race, and then a first place in the feature race, albeit perhaps a little bit of luck at the end, but still making it a triple of P1s. You couldn't ask better than that, could you?
No. Well, good evening. No, I don't think you could really ask for any better. Coming into it, you just sort of, having not done anything like this before, I didn't know where I was going to sit, where I was going to shape up. So to come away with, as you said, 3 P1s is, yeah, pretty good. Pretty happy with it. So we'll see what the rest of the season brings.
Well, indeed, and well, as the season wears on gradually, and we'll come on to talking about Circuit of the Americas a little bit later, but for yourself here, the Interlagos circuit, it looks as though it was a circuit which you go quite well at in general, given at your relative pace.
Yeah, I'd say so. It was my first proper time sort of at the track. I'd played it on a few other games, but there's nothing like iRacing, you know, so in practice and testing with the Connexus guys, I was sort of pushing on a bit more than everyone else, and then Charlie, my teammate, he really got on with it, and it's about pushing these cars. I think if you try and, obviously I'm only bronze, so I can't really talk too much, but I found that if you try and be gentle with them, they don't respond too well. If you push them a bit harder, drive them right, as comfortable as you are on the limit, then you get a bit more out of them. Obviously with the rear engine and rear aero with not a lot going on over the front, it's a bit of a weird balance of car. But yeah, this circuit, this car, it was a good combination. I think the circuit's really good. The mix of high speed, low speed, twisties, you know, it's really solid circuit.
Oh, most definitely. I would agree with you on that. Interlagos being a personal favourite that I do enjoy. But enough about me. Staying with you and with the pace you brought in that qualifying session and really mastering the circuit. We did see in the heat race, it looked to be quite a controlled performance from yourself. But I have to ask, when it's a 12-minute race, you can't really let up. How does it feel in terms of that potential risk of mistakes? Because you've got to be at 100% all the time for those 12 minutes.
Well, yeah, you're 100% spot on. It's flat out for 12 minutes. It's how many laps can you do in 12 minutes faster than the next guy. So there's no time to gather your thoughts, or you've just got to be flat out. And as you say, the thought is always there in the back of my head personally, like, oh, am I gonna, step over the line? And you don't want to do that, especially in the lead of class. But I try not to think of, being in the lead of class or anything like that. I just sort of, I know it sounds so cliche, but take every lap as it comes, and whatever happens, happens. I mean, in the sprint race, I don't think it was caught on the broadcast, but being in the mix with the silver guys, I was overtaken by one of them, and then he spun it in front of me in turn 3, and that's, how do you react to that when you're conscious you're in the lead of your class? Yeah, it's intense, but the heat race is good fun.
Oh, indeed. And then going on to a different kind of fun in the feature race, because 2.5 times the time duration, tire degradation becomes a big factor suddenly. And well, in this instance, you found yourself for the majority of the race actually falling away from the lead and well, having to chase down Charlie Max for the majority.
Yeah, so that was, again, as you say, a different challenge, but something that I really enjoy. I enjoy having something to chase. As comfortable as it is driving around in the lead, it's having something to aim for and something to go for is something that I also really enjoy and sort of relish in. So after my contact in the feature race, I set my goal, and I got there eventually through the unfortunate mistake of Charlie, and yeah, it was difficult. I think I killed my tires off, as you mentioned in the broadcast, which will make it difficult in the endurance rounds that are to come. But yeah, in that feature race, it was about getting the head down, getting up as close as I could to the front, and seeing what would unfold. And I was happy to accept P2, and then come around the final corner, and yeah, there was someone facing the wrong way, so off I drove, and luckily got the win. So yeah, that was that.
Oh, indeed, and fortune smiling upon yourself just as much as your pace, bringing a smile to the circuit for yourself. Definitely a day to remember. And well, a week's time from now, we have our first endurance race round of the Circuit of the Americas. How are you feeling for it?
Uh, I'm not really knowing what to expect, to be honest. I've done a bit of Kota over my time on different games, but nothing ever on iRacing. I know a lot of the lads that have been on the broadcast tonight have said about the contrast of high speed, heavy braking zones. I think in terms of looking after your tyres, it's going to be pretty key because you could be at the end and have nothing left. So just to see how that's going to unfold will be quite interesting, and I'll see what I can do pace wise. I think after this first round with, I don't want to say dominant, but first three P1s of the season. I just want to push on and see where we can take it, So hopefully coach will be nice to me, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, indeed, we will. We look forward to seeing you out on circuit in a week's time, as you may be earning, if things go your way, early favourite status in the bronze class, but time will tell on that one. But Ben, just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, just I think same as most of the other boys. Big shout out to the guys at Connexus, Connexus Motorsports. They sort of pushed me into the championship, and between the four of us that are all running in individual cars, said, "Yeah, let's do it, have a bit of fun." And yeah, so big shout out to them. Massive shout out to all spares. Do any truck, bus parts in the country, in the UK, especially in the southwest. They sort of, let me run the livery on the car, and yeah, just to everyone that sort of like supports me in sim racing, because it's quite a niche sort of hobby from where I come from. So yeah, to push on and get the wins tonight really means a lot for Connexus and the other boys involved. So yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for your your commentary. I think all the boys enjoyed it. So
Well, that's very kind of yourself and the guys to say, Ben, and we've enjoyed seeing you have a fantastic start to your season. May it continue at the Circuit of the Americas. We'll find out then, but until then, savour the moment, and we'll see you out of the circuit in a week's time.
well, let's hope so, Paul. Thank you very much. See you next week.
All the best. So hearing that there from Ben Kirby, our bronze dominator today, taking P1 in all 3 sessions. And well, what a day has been. And interesting to his thoughts there, the fact that really his first time taking on this Interlagos circuit in what is a dedicated league space, if you will, or in a much more intense space compared to perhaps just taking the car out for a few practice laps. But with that, you can definitely see how, with the way he's approached today, yes, there are a couple mistakes. Yes, there are moments when he may have fallen off circuit, but he never gave in and kept his head down and pushed on. And in qualifying, it meant that he took pole position, albeit not by a huge margin, but a good enough margin there to really give himself that comfort factor going into the heat race. And talking about the contrast between the style of racing in the heat versus the feature, the heat being full on intensity for all the 12 minutes, the feature race being a much more gradual race, you've got to evolve into it and also make sure to maintain the tyres. And in the end, it was a mistake that cost his rival Charlie Max the win in the feature race and led to it falling into the hands of Ben. And that goes to show you that point there, that sometimes it's better to turn it down a notch slightly in the feature to get the car home and bring home that major result. And that has worked out for Ben Kirby. But with the endurance race coming up at the Circuit of the Americas, he's mindful of the fact, much like when we've spoken to our gold and bronze drivers earlier about, gold and silver drivers I should say earlier, that the Circuit of the Americas is a very technical circuit with a lot of variety, but also it's a long race and will drain down the tyres. It could be one where the tyres will come back to bite many a driver, but will they bite back for Ben Kirby? We'll have to wait and see, but we'll find out in a week's time. So with that, that concludes all of our interviews for today, ladies and gentlemen. We do apologise they've been a little bit scattershot in terms of the fact we've brought interviews in and whatnot as we've gone, but still, that's the nature sometimes when individuals do become available at short notice. But then again, can we really blame them? Because it's been an absolute pleasure to firstly hear from Austin Hereford, the Hydro Race GDC racing driver in the gold class, who today maxed out as much as he could, but didn't quite have the pace compared to his roles, but definitely one to watch out for in terms of the fact he's bringing everything he can to the table. We also heard from the silver driver today, and really the man in the silver class of the day for HFT Racing of Carl Felvers. And then we did hear from Thomas Cope, not on the grid today, but the Olympus Esports Vanguard driver will be back to the start defending his title in the gold class as of round number 3. And then last but not least, we just heard from All Spares by Connexus' Ben Kirby, the bronze dominator today, taking the win in every session, whether it's qualifying or the races, and will fancy in his chances for the next round as well. And just to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, do not forget to vote for your driver of the day in the Twitch chat. Link has been posted once again there. It's a straightforward Google form. Do let us know who's been your driver of the day, and we'll announce it at the start of the broadcast in a week's time for round number 3. They don't get any awards out of it, but it is a little bit of a confidence boost for our drivers. And then again, it's all in the name of bringing the community together. So do let us know who's been your driver of the day, whether they've been the fastest driver out on circuit, whether they've taken a win, or whether they perhaps just been at the back of the field but they finished the race. It doesn't matter who it is. Everyone's equal on the grid here at UK Sim Racing, albeit there are winners and losers in championships, but everyone has the right to enjoy themselves out of the circuit, and that's why we have the driver of the day. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. And so thank you very much for watching. And if you have enjoyed today's broadcast and perhaps you want to know a little bit more about UK sim racing as a community, well, firstly, we'd recommend you go check out our official website. We talked about that a little bit earlier on, and that website is at uksimracing.co.uk, and indeed the #1 place to go to for all information regarding our leagues, series, and what UK sim racing represents in terms of values and ethos. But if you don't want to go to our official website, you can, of course, go to our social media, and particularly our Twitter. That's twitter.com/UKSimRacing_. We can find out all the latest tidbits about our leagues, but also you can find out about the latest trials and tribulations of the official UK Sim Racing esports teams. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our affiliates, and they do include what is Swelly Omida Sim Racing Coaching, the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. Swelly Omida's Sim Racing Coach can help take your sim racing drive to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swellio has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swellio being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PSCC, you know you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment aimed to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweaks can help drive you to realize your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high-quality sim racing-related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions, which makes SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. Amazon, the company trying to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, which include but are not limited to Amazon Prime, Amazon Web Services, and Amazon Fire TV. And lastly, SRC Driver Academy, a division of Sim Racing Community. Elevate your sim racing skills with SRC Driver Academy. Their team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose them? To put it simply, affordable, quality coaching. They're experienced coaches who provide valuable insights and a competitive edge. They make high-quality coaching accessible at all and affordable cost are tailored to your needs and goals. You can learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more, and they offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So do join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential. Visit their website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. But ladies and gents, we now accelerate forward in time up to the present, in the fact that today we went back in time by a week to cover rounds 1 and 2 in a post-round broadcast, but in a week's time on Thursday the 12th of October we won't be back in the past anymore. We will be in the present, and we will be live at circuit side in the United States of America at the Texan circuit of COTA for round number 3, the first endurance race round of the season. It's going to be a grueling 45-minute test of our drivers' ability to nail the 20-corner circuit lap after lap and maintain the tyres of their cars all the way through. And whether it's hot or cold out in circuit, we're going to see rubber shredded and rivalries flare up as we go deeper and deeper into this season. But the question is, who will be our first endurance race winners in the gold, silver and bronze classes? Well, join us then to find out all that and more. But until then, we have been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul, TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.